Okay, let's fucking do it. How about? Hello. Good evening, everyone. I love you all. Let me just post this to my old Facebook here. Yes. Yes, quite. Okay. Let me do that. Squeedly do, squeedly dee. Let's see. Okay. 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 I hope everyone's doing fine. I know no one's here yet, but this is just for my own feeling of, you kind of have to keep yourself company. So really, I'm saying good evening to myself. And it has been a relatively good evening, so I feel like I needed that. Just, And like always, I don't have a plan for what I'm going to draw, but hopefully my buddies will be able to join me later on. I hope my friend Ben has a Discord. That's good. Okay. Actually, now that I'm getting Spotify, it took me a while to get Spotify going, but okay, let's try that. I haven't heard this song before. Okay, so, okay. Let's, see here. This is a tight-ass song. Just like my butthole. Sorry. I'm sorry. Guys. It's not cool. It's not cool to say stuff like that on YouTube. I'm gonna get BTFO'd. Let's see here. So before I just made a little man, so, let's make a female presenting individual. Oh, we need this. Yeah. So I'm just sort of getting the kind of outline here. I don't know why we're focusing on hair, but we're just going with it. And she's actually sitting down working on her thesis. She has great posture, though. Terrific posture. Damn, this song is something else, man. Jerry Paper, man, that guy does not disappoint. So yeah, I usually do a warm up where I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, I have a good knack for finding stuff that's like kind of boring to draw. So this is kind of just to get my brain moving in any direction, even if it's a bad one. So yeah, let's see if we can give her some facial features. You know what she looks like? She looks like a character from, well, she looks like Rayman because she has no neck presently, but she looks like a character from, not a specific one, but she looks like she's in the same art style as like the Oblongs on Adult Swim. That was a fun little series. Gotta give her short hair because I'm sorry if you are you know, woman in this, you know, female identifying, I guess is the more broad term, but I can use woman for as shorthand for female identifying, right? You know, trans women are women. So, anyway, that aside, like, I'm sorry if you identify as a woman. I just did it again because I can't on myself. Um, I can't help but be all cucked out. Oh shit. Okay. Um, I'm sorry, just short hair looks better on you, in my opinion, but it's also objective fact. Man, we had a lot of fun last stream talking about opinion versus like objective fact. I feel like I had a lot of fun, by which I mean I kind of just had a hard time explaining myself or just coming across. I guess I don't know. It was not the most fun. I kind of want to do some of this on another layer. Yeah, let's lock this one. So let's take a step back. Let's see what we have here. I'm actually going to move some shit around. Whoops. Excuse me. I have a mute button, but both my hands are kind of in use right now, so sorry if burping is what you like to hear. Instead, I'll just ASMR you. I also don't want to get. I don't think they can pull me off of YouTube for having music in the background, right? Especially not if I talk over it. I think Facebook might. I've tried to like play music in the background on Facebook, but if there's any quiet moments, it just gets picked up, and I just immediately go offline. It's like, oh, you're doing something naughty. Sorry, you can't be doing that around these parts. That's what Facebook says. Oh there, partner. I see you're trying to play some licensed music in your stream. Sorry, us here at Facebook, we can't abide such criminal actions. So sorry, we're gonna have to put you down. Gonna have to put you down, old girl. Direct orders from Mr. Zuckerberg himself. Got to put the old girl down. By old girl, I mean you. So, yeah. I mean the stream. I have to put the stream down. So I meant, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Man, why is a southern accent so fun to just like slip into? Because you just relax your jaw a little bit, and yeah, just start. You can even hear it in just the word relax. You as you relax your jaw, and oh shit. Okay, yeah, I'm having a hard time. Let's see. I'm wondering if I can, I don't know, do something. More. I'm hitting more info. I don't know. Yeah. More info. I don't. Okay. Well, okay. I see a little green box, and I feel like when that box is red, I might be losing. I might be dropping frames or audio. Oh, see it right now. Okay, this is what happened last time, but I don't really know what to do about that. I can I guess I can Google it after. So we'll see. No fuck. You won't hit me back. I hope that song's not about domestic abuse. I really do. Yeah. Sure, she's wearing a fucking turtleneck. I don't care at this point. That actually looks fine though. I could have done these on different layers probably, but why make it easier? She's crossing her legs like a proper wait, do proper ladies cross their legs? They don't cross their legs. Man, civility is so complicated. So yeah. Let's just say that's one of these chairs, with the little doodads up there. I should probably have my Discord open. Okay, and I'll unmute myself, whatnot. Yeah, it's open. Doo doo, doo doo, doo doo, doo doo doo. And then okay, let's make this the lady layer. And then this will be the table layer. Yeah, it's kind of hard to I don't know, talk to no one, especially while I'm, you know, multitasking, which apparently humans can't do, even though I know I'm talking and breathing and thinking all at the same time. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. There's some sort of argument against the fact that humans actually can't multitask. What I'm not happy with are these bangs, man. No, I think I just drew it. Whatever. Mm-hmm. 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 I kind of want to give her bangs, but I kind of want to give her like a side thing. Just, you know. I don't know. I think girls are kind of, in my opinion, would they be harder or easier than drawing masculine characters? I don't actually know. I think there are certain aspects that are definitely harder. Like I think, I don't know, for some reason, like women's like posture, like a feminine, you know. Again, I'm speaking like in traditionally like gendered like culture or whatever. That's always my shorthand. I always have to clarify. It's like, well, technically, you know, masculinity can pretty much mean whatever you want it to mean, depending on how your, you know, society or your culture, what they attribute to as being masculine. But, you know, for shorthand, I think we can usually tell what we mean by masculine and feminine, just how we use those terms to, you know, what ideas we use to, that we communicate through those terms is kind of what matters. I'm trying to think of it, like an example I could say, but like, I don't know. The thing is, a lot of them are problematic because they like implicitly sort of, well, they imply that, you know, it's more evident of one gender over the other, but you know, yeah, maybe I'll think of an example later on if we end up talking about this. I'm guessing, let's make this a fucking goth chick. We can give her a little bit of. Is it too much? What about just that? Can we just tone it down a little bit? I kind of like that. I think her head's a little tall. So we're just going to transform this bad boy. See? Instantly cuter. Wait, oh, whoops. I wanted to do, what did I want to do? Nope. Cancel. Okay, yeah, let's do that. And let's do a little bit of that. A little bit of, no, nope. Oops. Hey, Spotify. Spotify, what you doing? What you doing, Spotify? Okay. Yo, Spotify, what's the deal, dog? Come on. Is it? Did it just not want to? Okay. Okay, it just doesn't want to play a certain song. That's really odd. Well, the song kicks ass, so I'm fine with that. Um, Come on, go up. What? Whoa. What the hell? Oh, that's cool. Get up there. So I always do ears. It's like pretty much my go-to for like cartoony ears because you know you don't want to draw all that jib jab whatever the hell is going on in there. You know, within an ear, it's like a whole bunch of bullshit. So what you do is you just draw a like a 6, well, depending on which direction you're on. But so this would be like a 6, right? But you just take out that that part right there. So you just got the inner, and then you just whoop whoop. You know, same deal. Just for any cartoonists out there, it's like if you ever, you know, these little tricks, you can steal that one from me. I definitely stole it from someone else. Man, this eraser needs to be more. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I have to delete all this too. Delete. Do 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 do. So, hey everyone, how's your day been? Nice, nice. I feel like the hair should come down like that. Yeah, that's the ticket. This looks like a grown-up, like Susie from, I think that's her name, from Calvin and Hobbes. This is like, you know, Susie in like her 20s, I guess, maybe. Thinking like out of college, or in, yeah, I said thesis, right? Yeah, she's working on her thesis. She's a liberal arts major, of course. I mean, she's writing her thesis in a coffee shop. Is there, you know, would it be possible for her to be anything else? Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Funny, funny, funny. So you get these little hairs peeking out. You know, just give it some of that. I don't know if that doesn't really look good. And that also doesn't look good. That like black line behind her head. Oh shit. That's not good. Oh no. Guess I could I don't know. Yeah, this part of the head's kind of tricky. I don't really know how I'm supposed to make it look. I don't want it to look too much like a helmet. But I also want to simplify the shape. Okay, this is where I do want the soft edge. Alright, I can come back to that. Always focus too much on the head. She's like really sitting up. She's sitting up really tall. I don't know if she needs to be doing that. Alright, hopefully, fingers crossed, I will remember to stay on this layer and not fill in the chair, the table, because that's my, oh god, it's like a rookie mistake there. Doing it on the wrong layer. Oh boy, let me tell you. See, like right here. Let's just see. Let's just get rid of that shit. Alright, let me check on my friendies here. Okay, I'm just sending them a Facebook message, just letting them know I'm online. You know what that means? I've been working for what? 20 minutes working, drawing, doodling. What the fuck? Okay. Am I not live anymore? Okay, I just dropped out for a second for some reason. Okay. Nothing better than a room temperature beer. Whoopsie. Fucking around. Okay. That is that is a big computer. Shit. I kind of fucked up, didn't I? Let's put this on some layer. Okay. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna excuse me. Let's just do that. Whoops. Okay. So this is her right leg. That's going kind of like that. Okay. Sorry. I just, yeah. Don't worry. She's wearing a dress, even though it's fine. She didn't want to, but she is. Wow, it's almost if it shouldn't have her shoulders up so high. Kind of need to change her pose, don't I? Because you really wouldn't have your shoulders up that high if you were yeah, it's a really uncomfortable way to write. So let's do this. Let's, you know, make her lean back in her chair a little bit. That's good. We can work with that, I guess. And this is a cartoon lady, so, you know, we can make her have whatever anatomy we need to, but I like it to keep it relatively consistent, right? Like, so basically, here's her shoulders, right? And put that there.
Simulated human experience is amazing. How much for the whole package?
It's not that like that.
She's now got like a vampire collar thing going on. And we can just do the outline of the table, that's fine. Or just rough it in, just so we can see where she'll be in reference to the table. So yeah, I did all that work on the face, and I haven't even gotten the other, important shit down. Eating on a big pizza pie. Let's bring her head down a little bit. We can angle it too.
Hi folks, Dr. Abraham here, but you can call me Dr. ABC, you know. We've had a lot of fun here tonight, but I'd like to take a moment to let you know that an identity crisis is a very serious thing. If you or anybody you know is going through an identity crisis, shoot me a quick email at info.net and I will send a team of certified crisis managers to assist.
Okay. This is really kind of harder than I kind of imagined it is. Seated positions are always, it's always good kind of to have kind of a reference, well, for most poses, because humans are complicated. They're one of the, I'm not sure if they're one of the hardest things to draw necessarily, but they're one of the hardest things to get just so, to get exactly right. Many fucking superfluous lines. Driving myself crazy. I'm deciding how pointy to make her bosom. I guess the answer is not that pointy. Not good. That's fine. Sorry, I just knew this hair was gonna get on my nerves. Motherfucker. There we go. There, now it's not quite as stark. Get some nice texturing on the hair if I can. You know, it's possible I should be working with, I don't know, a different program. Or just different brushes, I don't know. Because it's hard to even see what I'm doing, you know? Because everything gets kind of pixely and, yeah. So, yeah. Like, this hand is really not anything spectacular, to be honest. To be quite honest with you. I think generally you want to draw the first finger closest to you. And then fill in the rest. Might give it the most natural feel, you know. Guys, you heard it. You heard it yourselves. Things don't change. They only rearrange. Okay. I think we're gonna abandon this because just this pose is kind of awkward and it's not the most interesting thing. So I'm probably gonna draw something. You know, no offense if the no one that's watching this doesn't want to. Oh God, my stream keeps cutting out. It's not fun. Okay. I was hoping my pals would come by. It'd be sad if they aren't able to, but you know, I won't hold it against them. I just feel like my last stream, you know, it really livened up once we got a discussion going. So, but I should get into the habit of just streaming regardless. You know. Also, when I was streaming on Facebook, it was a little bit easier because you know, I don't really have any connections on YouTube, but you know, I've got Facebook friends, so. Excuse. It's probably not great to burp, but too bad. Like even people in like in the future, I'm pretty sure they're gonna skip a lot of this. It's really okay though. Like I have to keep on telling myself it's okay, but it really is. Like no one. That's the whole thing. It's no one cares, so I don't. That it doesn't feel bad. I like it when people care, but if no one cares, it's like, yeah, well, then it's fine. The more important thing is just to, you know, just go ahead and just try. Like the more I do it, I feel like eventually I have to, you know, get some semblance of, you know, frequent interaction. I don't, you know. If I focused a little bit more on my YouTube presence and like actually put out like content, you know, besides just people. I mean, this is like my second, you know, stream on YouTube, so I'm not really, well, third, I guess, but you know. In school, I got so used to drawing from life that it's like, you know, it's kind of hard to just, you know, just making it up as you go. I know that's the whole point, is to you know, get better at being able to, you know, you have that like reference library in your brain. And if I could, you know, if I could stream myself sculpting, that would be tight. But I think I need some kind of like webcam or GoPro or something. Which, you know, costs money. Because in some ways, I think that'd be kind of more interesting. But in other ways, maybe less so. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I don't really have an audience, so I don't really know what appeals to people, or what I like have that could appeal to people. I don't know. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna let this lady go for now. But you know, it's like whatever. That's the lady. And it looks like fine for what it is. But let's you know, we can kind of um yeah. Okay. Oops. Fuck. Fuck. Okay, so let's put her over there, and now let's do I don't know, guys. I'd say like Pokemon. Pokemon are like pretty fun to draw. Um, you know, let me do my best to draw a portrait. Let's draw some fucking fan art. Sorry. Okay. So I'm just gonna look up like a portrait of a YouTuber that I've been following. Um, yes. Just looking for a good. Oh, apparently he's a character from Trigun. That's also the namesake. Okay. Let's put YouTube. Um, you know, we could just look at a video and just get it straight from there. So let's do that. Wait, what do I want to do? So I'm gonna mute the music for a second so I don't accidentally, okay, I'm just looking for a point where he's like looking towards the camera. Uh-oh. Loading. Fuck. I know this is super boring, but again, no one's watching, so, you know, fuck it. Oh, wait, whoops. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize I muted myself by any accident. So,
If
all right.
you want, you know, we could always play Fortnite together.
Whoops, daisy. Oop. Okay. Almost ready, almost ready. Okay. Whoops, daisy. Sorry. Okay, so let's start real simple with, hold on. My bad. Okay, and let's lock these. Stop looking into the stars. Can see very far. Very far. Do, 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 do. Yo, guys, like, what the hell? You're just gonna leave me high and dry? In the city, might be winning, but he's feeling real shitty. Okay. That's good. Okay, I just got an idea. It's easy as you thought. Do, 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 do. Okay. Okay. Let's get the overall. Okay. Yeah, so one of my pals canceled. That's fine. From last week. Well, that's cool. It's okay. You know. Maybe I could just do, you know, I could just play Pokemon like I originally wanted to, but then, you know, it just interaction is kind of apparently it's kind of crucial to what I'm doing here. I mean, I don't know, because I feel like I wouldn't really watch a streamer because they would be too self-conscious to just fill the void. I feel like because you know, it's weird. It's weird to like just talk to yourself, but apparently apparently that's it's not that weird because I'll do it. But you know, the content I watch is either more than one person playing a game or sometimes a person playing a game to like a group of people, and like sort of playing off them. Not necessarily like, you know, chatting with them, but it's like that's kind of the, you know, idea. And it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of hard to just, one, because, you know, it takes like mental brain power to, you know, uh, to talk while concentrating. See, I couldn't even do it there, but yeah. Okay, let me just respond. What? What? This is some nonsense. Boy. So, I mean, whatever you want to do, man. I don't know if you're watching the stream, but yeah, if you want to jump on in, you know, sure. Okay.
Pride.
Whoops. Okay. Like some honest babe. And what's great about having two guests is that they could be talking to each other, so I wouldn't have to be, again, concentrating the whole time. But, you know, such is life. Okay. Let's see, yeah, your thumb would be on the inside. So just, like, his thumb would be right up his rectum, but let's see, if I'm holding someone like this, like above my head, yeah. My thumb would be roughly there. Again, all these fucking lines, man. Oh, shit. So just imagine, yeah, there's a little... Okay. What the... Okay, hold on. Why would you? I said the. Okay. Hello? I don't want to open a video call. Yeah. Oh, okay. What? I didn't. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, hop on that Discord.
What? I am. I'm on. I'm in the Discord. Oh wait. Yeah. You're. Wait. What?
No, you're
Yeah. I'm in. I'm
you're
in.
not in it. At least last I checked.
Oh, here I am. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't in the voice chat. I was in the text chat. All right. So I'm gonna end the call now.
Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
Okay. Wee. I don't know why you couldn't have. Yeah, leave. Why you couldn't have just
Hey,
text. Yo, what's up?
how clear is my voice? And I don't mean robot, I mean audio, like mixing.
It's pretty good, I think. Let's see. Talk.
So I was looking at a cabinet the other day and there was a mouse inside of it. And I was wondering if it was really cute or really disgusting.
Um, a mouse. I mean, I think mice are actually yeah they're pretty cute. I can even get down with like a rat. If it's I don't know if it's like a
That
pet.
was just me saying shit so that I could see if my voice was working. But yeah, mice is pets. There's a mouse in my house, and you know what he does? Well, he did this one time. I wouldn't say he does it all the time.
Wait, are you still talking? Is this a real thing?
But this is a real thing right now.
Okay, yeah, go
It
for it.
wasn't a real mouse that came into my house, uh, at least in the winter time. And what he was doing was he went into my room one time, and I looked at him and I made eye contact with him, and he acknowledged me. And then
He
he
did like a
went,
little bow, like a little curtsy.
no, it was just, I looked into his eyes and he looked very conscious, and it was interesting.
That's cool, man. Sounds like
Yeah,
a
you know.
sounds like a similar experience that a friend of mine had. Um, okay, Ben's gonna join us hopefully soonish. Um,
Well, I guess any animal, you sometimes you look at them and it seems like you're both acknowledging something, but maybe people do it all the time with dogs. I don't always get it from dogs. Sometimes dogs kind of look like just looking at you. You have to be careful with anthropomorphism into animal psychology because normally things that people do to each other for different reasons are not the same things that animals do to each other for the same reasons. It doesn't work out like that.
yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you. Could you give me like an example though?
Oh, a good example is probably like when scarab beetles look like they're hugging. Oh, actually, this is a great example. So there's this video of a guy and he goes to touch a bumblebee and the bumblebee like high fives him, and that's what everybody loves to say. Oh, the bumblebee high fived him. But I don't think that's what happened at all. I think the bumblebee didn't know what the heck it was and he was trying to push it out of the way.
Yeah, highly likely. But I think people for the most part kind of know it's not like a one-to-one thing. But then there's really interesting stuff like this woman who befriended like an octopus. Like I think she was Australian, maybe. I don't know, but she was like a marine biologist. I'm pretty sure, and she like kept going back to like the same spot, and she like found the same octopus, and it developed like a relationship with her. But octopuses, I'm still not sure which one it is. They're known for having like really high intelligence. Birds too, like crows, are like really intelligent. So I think we tend to like because we're so like anthro like centric, like we're so keen on our own like human abilities, we kind of like discard the abilities of other animals that might just be communicating like I want to say like on a lower level, but they're still like almost communicating like we do you know
Well, they kind of, because people are aware of their consciousness and stuff like that. That's the human thing. The animal thing, people are still animals, so they still have,
uh-oh
same. What do you
Hold,
mean?
Hold on, give me 1 sec. Okay.
Oh, well, that's what you mean by uh-oh. You know, I just put the X on that one.
Well, I gotta open the chat so I can tell him to join the Discord.
I thought you want it to be a plant or something. Like, uh-oh, humans or animals are...
Hold on, Matt. Hold on.
Okay.
People are still animals.
Wait, who? Oh my God, this is crazy.
Figure this out. I'm
have to
trying to
talk to
figure this
Benjamin.
out.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Okay. I presume you're sending him little word notes.
I gotta open the chat so I can tell him to join the Discord.
I don't know how to do it.
Hold on, Matt. Hold on. This is this is crazy. It's okay. Wait, hold on.
That was super delayed, by the way.
How are you, Matt? Did you join the call?
Okay.
I'm not in the messenger call, no. I'm in the Discord call.
I'm hearing my voice several minutes after I say things.
Yeah, I don't know where you're coming from, Ben. Is it on Facebook?
Yeah, I am coming from Facebook.
Okay, X out the Facebook call.
Okay.
I'll just tell you how to join the Discord on via text, because yeah, that's yeah.
Oh, so he doesn't know how to join the Discord.
Well, I don't know if he has it down. Yeah, I didn't really check on that whole thing.
Really?
But I was pretty, I keep saying the word Discord, so I'm hoping people sort of use that as the go-to for communication with, at least with when it comes to my streaming. Anyway, sorry for technical difficulties. I don't know if that was shit.
Discord over here is pissing me off.
Oh, nice meme, dude. I'm just gonna ask him.
Dat. Yeah, you presume he's actually going to find his way over here, yes?
Give me 1 sec.
Alrighty.
Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna see if I ever just like stop talking. It's just because I'm going back and forth. Anyway, what the fuck were we talking about?
We were talking about anthropomorphizing animals.
Yeah, I was talking about like, octopuses and birds and shit, and then were you gonna say something?
Not about octopuses or birds, but okay, so what I kind of want to think about is how much are we like an animal and we don't realize it? This is a vague sentence, but I mean for it to be a little bit less vague, because the question of topic is, how much do we think we are in control of ourselves? You see, you look down on the other less intelligent animals, and you see that they're like doing a bunch of dumb stuff, like the ants are going into an area they're gonna be exterminated. Like a bee makes a nest on your house. That's a dumb move. You're just gonna call the pesticide guy. And
I mean, I don't know it's necessarily dumb, because don't they have sort of like a what's it called? A relationship with like us, where like they're like, we're like closer to food. There might be like a garden nearby or something like that. Like I'd say,
dumb in the fact that they're gonna get exterminated.
Right,
if a bee
but
had intelligence, it would know not to make a nest on a human house, because the human house would remove it.
I get, yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that like they are only smart enough to the point where it like fulfills like their own level of utility, right? So to them, just going anywhere nearby like food or whatever, it's like it's a good enough chance that I don't know. I don't know. I would have to go into like the way bees like set up their hives. I don't know where they normally do, but to me, it's like I feel like they're more focused on getting a safe spot or a place nearby food, I guess.
Besties, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Oh,
There you are, Ben.
Yeah, I figured it out. I didn't verify my email, so I think that's what another Discord a long time ago, and I didn't remember how to do it. I didn't remember what
Verify your email.
it was.
Yeah, it's a little, it can be a little bit you know, technology, right, guys? Oh boy, this
Oh yeah,
this
old
century
days.
of our
Verifying the Discord email before I had the Discord.
I
what
think part of the issue earlier, I have it open in Facebook, but I also had the stream like playing on YouTube. I can't see what you're making right now, by the way.
I mean, if you want to have the
If I do,
what's up?
if I do have that open, it's gonna create a weird echo effect.
Not if you're listening on headphones.
Have one.
Okay, let me try that.
Yeah, because I just have whatever is playing from my um thing. So whatever is coming from you is just whatever your mic picks up, because that's the only thing that Discord is tracking. So
Okay, give me 1 second then.
yeah. If you want to just like have it open but just mute it, I guess. I don't know if you really care as to what I'm drawing.
All right, let me
I like
take a
your
look.
picture.
See.
Your fat guy feeding a baby with his tit.
Yes, what about it?
Where did you come up with that idea? You just like
So this, do you know the YouTube animator slash? Well, he doesn't really. I don't know if he animates. Well, he's making video games and shit, so I'm assuming he's animating in that. But Oni NG, Chris O'Neill from like Newgrounds fame.
I don't. I think
Okay,
I
he's pretty edgy.
maybe
You might like his comedy and like his video game commentary. I don't know if you watch that kind of shit, but anyway, so he does like art stuff. He did this show with Game Grump people called Doodle Dudes. That was a lot of fun where they just drew together and it was a lot of fun. So his like technique for character design is like pretty. I don't know. I tend to like ape it pretty hard, which is ironic or coincidental because he draws apes a lot. But anyway, so that's kind of where I get my general thing, but I'm also just a cartoonist, man. I just draw, you know, cartoony things. Me trying to draw realistically is like, I can do it, but I usually have to have like a reference or something involved, you know?
So what you're drawing now, it's like old man's back. Is that
It's not necessarily an old guy, but yeah, it's this YouTuber that I've been getting into. But anyway, we don't have to get into it. I'm just sort of doing it so I have something to do. If you guys want to suggest something that I could draw, I could do that instead, but you know.
Why don't you draw a swan eating a lamp?
Okay. Is this just free association or was that coming from someplace?
No, it's a free association.
Okay. I could do that, Matt, but if you want, you could like take a couple minutes or like 10 seconds and come up with something that you actually want me to draw instead of just the first thing. But I shouldn't be judging
now
you because
that
I asked for suggestions, so I shouldn't be judging. But it's like, you know, you could say like, oh, a peanut butter sandwich taking a bath. It's like, well, yeah, I could make that interesting, but you know,
I
you like that,
honestly
huh?
think
You like that
I'm
visual?
I do a lot of free association commitments.
I
You
mean,
know,
that's supposed to be a good thing in improv, apparently, but like the whole like first thought, best thought. But I don't know if that's true. I think maybe for a lot of people that's true. I really, I don't
maybe.
know. I don't know.
Music, definitely not. Music, no way. I'll go through like melodies before I pick one.
What do you
I'm gonna
wait?
write.
What do you mean? Oh, for like what you want to listen to? You mean?
Oh no, for writing. If I'm gonna write a song, I'll go through.
Oh, right,
One.
because you do music. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So what kind of music do you like then?
I like a lot of rock music. I mean, that's what I write. I write
Okay,
metal.
but like what kind of bands like inspire you? I guess what you know.
Well, my favorite band is Clutch, I would say,
Clutch. I'm not
and
familiar.
oh, they're pretty good. It's like they're a modern rock band. I'm getting told to shush.
What?
They're
Oh, by who? A ghost?
no, not a ghost. No,
Okay.
lava.
yeah, I would say they're like a modern classic rock band, but they're better than classic rock because I really don't like a lot of classic rock.
Well,
They're
I would consider like Led Zeppelin classic rock. No. They
I
kind of
I like that,
yeah,
but there's so
yeah.
many
Isn't
actually
classic
electric
rock kind
is
of like a shawl for basically anything past 1980?
Would it be past or before? Because I thought it would like
Well,
predate
I guess
1980.
anything like sorry, that's what I meant was like I think from like the 80s is the period for classic rock, but
I
not
don't
way before. If it's
know. There's
1700,
like Venom
then
classic rock, and they came out in like '79. I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers came out in like '78 too. Say that they're classic rock.
Would you call them classic rock? The Red Hot Chili Peppers?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
that's stuff. I mean, the first album came out in '81 or something, but they weren't even famous until the '90s anyway.
Okay.
But DC was came out in the '60s, so
Right.
or so
So I didn't mean to cut you off, Matt. I just realized that I had like introduced you guys to each other, but Ben, you listened to the last stream, and
yeah.
you thought you what were your thoughts like, just sort of generally?
Well, I mean, it was an interesting discussion to be sure. Matt, just so you know, I have Asperger's syndrome, so I had some interesting your viewpoint. Um, I think, like, for me growing up, things that you were talking about, where it was like how you're raised. I
mhm.
am one of three brothers. I am the youngest kid, and the older two brothers, um, they didn't exhibit a lot of the traits that I did. So it's hard to really say, like, oh, it's up to how you're raised. It's up to, you just have to
What
kind of
did you say again?
silence things.
Yeah, sorry. You guys both kind of cut out every once in a while, so I don't really know how to go about like fixing that, but I guess just try to like, you know, take a pause or whatever so we don't talk over each other, cuz yeah, I'm sort of missing some words here and there. So I don't know, but yeah, well, whatever.
Well, here's kind of my conception of it. So you have
But I just want
not
to make sure Ben was finished. I didn't want to like get too deep into it. I kind of want to just like intro you guys.
Yeah, I mean that's fair because we definitely gonna get deep into it, but I do want to make sure
Everyone, what?
everyone share of the conversation.
Ben, you're really cutting out a lot.
Let me
That kind of
do this.
sucks.
Let me
that
like
intentional
okay,
like that.
the headphones out. I'm gonna put them back in, see if that helps. It's just like I was getting a lot of weird feedback when I put the headphones in, so
You don't have to keep. I mean, you can try with them out, and then we could see how you sound. But you should sound relatively the same, I guess.
I mean they're out right now, and you're having problems with them right now. So
Oh wait, so I don't know. Whatever.
all right, let me put them in again. 1 second.
Yeah, I wish I
Everybody,
knew. What's up?
earbud. I said
All right,
everybody put in their earbuds.
you guys again.
Okay. So yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, then you kind of laid out some of your I guess criticisms then. So yeah, Matt, do you want to like respond? I guess.
Respond to the criticisms. Well, I want to have a better working conception of what this means. I don't
Uh,
think that going around with the idea that oh, I have the disease or whatever, like just saying that quote unquote have something is necessarily very helpful to your subconscious because then how are you limiting yourself that way? You might be limiting yourself because you're in the back of your mind and the depth of your soul, you're thinking that you're somehow inferior, and you might even just go and say, "Oh well, oh I'm proud to be autistic or whatever," and something like that. But in the depths of your soul, you feel inferior about it, and I think it's better if you're saying, well, maybe you exhibit some behaviors, which a lot of people do exhibit those behaviors, even if they're like super normie, super neurotypical. they might exhibit some of those behaviors, but maybe they're not behaviors they want to be exhibiting. So it's just a matter of isolating the behaviors from each other. That's the way that I understand
That's
it. I think that you have like autistic behaviors, which are a result of however you're thinking about things and associating your mind and your body.
Wait,
And
okay. I don't know. Yeah, Ben, you want to respond to some of this? Ben? Oh, did he? What? He just dropped out of the chat. Did you? Okay. Hold on.
hello.
Hey, yeah.
Sorry, I closed out of a tab because I thought that I was like on Discord twice, and I technically was just bullshit. Anyway, yes, I will respond.
or twice enough.
Um, so, as far as like exhibiting certain behaviors and that sort of thing goes, let me tell you a story, Matt. Let me tell you a little bit about my life. So, when I was a wee lad, I did not understand idioms. When someone said "give it a shot," I thought that someone was going to stick a needle in me, like at the doctor's office. Um, when someone said "hold your horses," I was like, "I can't hold horses. My arms aren't big enough."
Yeah. How
Um,
old were you, Ben, when you sort of like came into contact with, or you started realizing these tendencies? Sorry, just for.
well, I mean, it's not even necessarily I realized like idioms because of Asperger's. It was like I don't understand idioms, and other people were like, "Oh, there's something up."
I
Um,
guess so. You wouldn't be able to like say when you like first like heard idioms, or like you just, because I'm imagining
I mean,
it's relatively young, right? I'm talking like 4 or 5 maybe.
is an elementary school for sure,
Okay.
like first grade type stuff.
Right.
And like that wasn't something that I had to deal with really. They picked up on idioms pretty fast. And then as far as like goes, like I mean, none of us are super athletes, but for me especially, like I can't catch a ball, I can't dance, I can't do a lot of things worth of shit, and it's like it's severely noticeable. And I've
Having
agr-
at least like some of the more meaningful things, like I guess nobody really needs to dance, but
right, well, and
I'd say
that's
that's
the
pretty
thing.
meaningful.
you just love dancing. You should be a stripper.
Okay. Maybe I will be. Maybe I will be.
But I mean, that's the thing is like I've found like workarounds for my sort of thing. Like, luckily, most jobs don't require dancing or the ability to like play football well or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and like driving, that was actually a big reason why I moved out to New York because I tried driving, and the best driving instructor in all of Nebraska was not able to teach me like basically anything even after extra weeks of lessons, just because like what I was seeing on the road and what I was doing in the car and what I was like focusing on in my mind were all like interfering with each other.
Yeah.
Like, technically speaking, I could learn how to drive, and there are reports saying like, oh, people with Asperger's that have learned how to drive are like better because they took so much extra time to learn. But I didn't want to take like years and years to learn if I could find a workaround.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you should probably, well, I don't know. I would say I would recommend that you learn to drive because of how necessary, like how good it is to be able to be independent in a lot of different things
Well,
and
not. I mean, that kind of
things.
depends on where you live and like what kind of lifestyle
right.
you have, because I would say definitely for someone who lived in like a suburban or like rural area, it's like you got to get around, and public transportation isn't really a thing, which I think is something that could change, right?
It's
Yeah,
already changing.
yeah, exactly. But those sort of like infrastructure should be like grown and sort of like more established in what's known as like flyover states or whatever, which I do think is kind of like a mean term. But anyway, so
It's true for Nebraska, though.
yeah, totally. I mean, some states are nice to fly over. It's like
No.
you get a nice view of the state. But
Yeah.
anyway, so but if I'm living, in Jersey City, where there's pretty much public transportation everywhere, like having a car is just like more money, and like millennials are like the poorest generation in like a long time. So I get not like wanting to fork over the money, and like I don't fucking drive, and I'm not even like I don't have the same sort of deal as my friend Ben here. It would probably come easier to me, I'm guessing, but I don't really know because I haven't really taken the time, So I don't know. I think it's just really dependent on your environment, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because like here I can be independent. Like most of my friends don't drive or rarely drive here in New York, and it's have
But
my
you
own
live in New York,
apartment
do you?
in the city.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sorry,
You're
Ben. You,
at
you cut out. You're just saying that you do live in the city, yeah.
Mhm.
Just so it's clear for like the stream, I guess. I don't know if the stream
I
picked that up.
station. I think it's confusing a lot of the times. I have to bend over to somebody else's schedule.
Wait, what do
I
you
don't like
mean?
doing.
Public transportation?
Yeah.
Well, no. It's like I mean, it depends on what schedule they have, right? Like, there's ways to sort of expedite your trip and sort of plan accordingly, right? Plus, it's like much better for the
Mhm.
environment too. Like that's a huge part of it is like not everyone needs to be driving, their own car. Like if you were building a society from scratch, like yeah, sure, there should be ways for you to get around personally, and so I don't think like having a car is necessarily a horrible thing, but using it to get around everywhere where you could just literally hop on like a giant turtle that's all taking people to the same place. I'm talking about like for building our society from scratch, of course. I wouldn't swap out buses for turtles, although that would be kind of cool. I don't know.
Turtle, you're gonna like fucking like put armed ass people on that turtle
Like
because
Dinotopia. I want Dinotopia.
ugh, I kind of don't want that. That would be living hell. You'd have people getting eaten in the middle of the
No, they're
night.
smart dinos. They
Yeah, they're smart
We work with the
people.
dinos. The dinos like talk too.
Yeah, exactly. And pirates use the dinos to eat people.
Okay, I actually never read Dinotopia, but like looking at the pictures, so I
Oh
don't know.
no, I don't. I haven't read it either. I'm just saying that that's probably something that would happen.
Well, if you
You don't
create a world where that doesn't, then it doesn't. That's
create a.
Dinotopia.
I don't know what dystopia is. I mean, okay, if I
It's
was
like
writing
dinosaurs
dystopia, that
evolved. Well, we're getting too into the reeds with the metaphor, but yeah.
because if the dinosaurs were smarter than people, they probably wouldn't want to be used as vehicles. So
No, but they might like spend some of their time for like mutual gain.
Right?
They would have
Yeah.
jobs, and
We would have to.
they wouldn't be like a suppressed like second class citizen like in the Flintstones where they just kind of shrug and go, "It's a living." Like I think all the dinosaurs in the Flintstones should like unionize and start like murdering their captors.
So they say it's a living, but like,
Is it?
yeah, is it like it is
You
the
live,
like
you
little?
dude, you live inside a wooden box that people think is a camera. Like, when do you,
Like,
when do you
yeah,
get breaks?
do they pay that tiny dinosaur inside that camera?
Do they pay them with like other dinosaurs, which then they say it's a living, like right being thrown into the giant maw of guess what, capitalism. Boom. Anyway, sorry, Matt.
my interesting experience with idioms myself when I was younger. I
Yeah,
used to
sorry,
pretend
we got so far away from the original point. I'm so sorry. What are you saying?
I used to pretend that I didn't know what idioms meant when I was like a certain age. I think it was 7 or something like that,
Mhm.
because I didn't feel confident that I was going to be able to make them back.
Okay.
So I would just not even like give the power to the other person and stuff like that. And sometimes it makes me wonder, like when people say that they don't get idioms, do they actually not get them, or are they just saying that they don't get them, or they're repressing what they actually could be gaining from it because
Oh.
they don't feel confident in their ability to fight back.
Okay,
I-
yeah. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
I can say full well that 5-year-old me did not get idioms. It was not an act. But I will say that once, because they gave me like special training for big book with like a bunch of different idiomatic phrases and illustrations of like, oh, for hold your horses. I keep coming back to that example, but it was, someone holding a horse, and then it was like what it literally means and what it actually means. And it was very helpful. And at a certain point, because of course not every idiom was in that book because it was a book for first graders and for me, and there are
Here's
just
a question.
Sorry,
Can you
let Ben finish.
there are so many different phrases, but it got to a certain point if I ran into an idiom I didn't recognize, but I knew that like, oh, people are saying something weird here that doesn't make sense if I take it literally. I would say idiomatic phrase, and I'd like say that around like my mom's friends and stuff, and they'd be like, what? Like, yeah, I guess I am, but
Oh, you would like call it out?
yeah, I would call it out.
That's interesting.
Like, because that's another thing with me is like I'm a verbal processor. A lot of things, like if I'm having a rough time with something, I'm doing this thing. It's just not. Oh, like if I'm having tech issues, my roommates usually know.
Oh, you're saying you'll say it aloud? Is what you're saying?
Right. So, like back then, if I was having issues understanding what people were saying, I would vocalize it and say idiomatic phrase, but I'd say it in my 5-year-old voice, so it'd be like, "You using it in math ways,"
Yeah.
That's probably not a
that's
good
cute.
idea because that is what could be categorized as an autistic behavior. Because number one,
I was autistic.
Yeah,
I
Matt.
am autistic.
Yeah.
it's like
That's
one,
the
like
greatest medical discovery of the generation.
like maybe oh, you're good
Sorry.
for whatever that could entail, whatever evidence people have to suggest that there's a certain personality that makes you
So
have
Matt,
it.
so the contention I have, and I've given this a lot of thought, is that we seem to be caught up in this categorization issue where I want to sort of loosely categorize autistic behavior in sort of a wide series of behaviors and tendencies, right? Like the one example we used last week was with Larry, right? He tends to sort of ramble and he feels a need. I feel like this is more or less what he said to get the thought. I think this is my paraphrasing what he said last week, but that sort of need to get the thoughts out of your head as they come to you, right? To sort of let go of the social decorum that keeps people from communicating, what's actually on their minds. And there's plenty of instances where you could see that being a negative, like instance where that can go poorly for someone, right? Where they can't censor themselves, or you could see them like deepening a relationship, right? So I don't really want to work again in this binary. I think binaries by and large, by and large, are
binary
what
skill.
what
It's a skill, the skill is being able to do it when it's appropriate to do it and not do it when it's not appropriate to do it.
Right.
but that's not what I'm
But
talking about. So someone doesn't become not autistic by changing their behavior, right? That's what you seem to be implying, is that you're only calling the negative outcomes autistic when really the person is autistic and it can express itself
Hold on
negatively,
a second.
right? That's a very important distinction, because I think Ben might agree with me. There's all different kinds of autistic and Asperger's behavior, and yeah, I think that society sort of views it as this sort of negative thing, and part of fighting the stigma, which you mentioned last week. I remember you saying that you acknowledge the fact that there is a stigma. I would argue that you're contributing to that stigma by only allocating autistic traits as the negative ones that are expressed, right?
Well, because those are the ones that you don't want to express, and actually, to a certain point, there might be a reason that there's a stigma, a good one,
Like,
because these traits are not beneficial to
but I
you
just
know, a
told you
fun.
that they're not necessarily negative. They can be beneficial. So to sort
Yeah.
of do it with a broad stroke and say no, anything negative is autistic or anything autistic is negative, that's really
Because
an oversimplification, and really it's not really true to begin with, right?
Right. Right. And like it's one of the things about having to learn is like you're you're saying right now, Matt, is that like there are just certain traits that like, oh, you gotta either not exhibit them at all, or you have to just know when to use them and when to not. And a lot of times social situations aren't so clear cut, especially for autistic people that have a hard time telling, um, picking up on social cues, that sort of thing. Like one thing that I see as both a strength and a detriment is I can be pretty assertive. So I am not afraid to speak my mind, but I have to know when to do that.
the
Like
thing is,
I
none of
work
these
in
are like
No, sorry.
they're
Can we let Ben go on, because I feel like he's making a point here.
yeah, so I work in customer service right now, and so if I told my customers, like, because sometimes customers get really angry, if I and saying like you're being completely unreasonable, like you need to chill out, like this is not as important as you think it is, that sort of thing, then that would be like bad because I'm supposed to, give the customers what they want and they're going to be more upset with me and that sort of thing. But by that same token, if supervisor or someone was treating me unfairly, and I would want to say something about it. I would want to talk to maybe their supervisor or a different supervisor or that sort of thing,
still
and that would be beneficial. But there's a lot of room in between that it's hard to tell, like, oh, when exactly is this a good trait? When exactly is it not? And that's part of
and
being
figuring
autistic. Is
figuring out how to get better at that stuff might be the difference between you being a supervisor someday and not being a supervisor someday.
Uh, Wait, yeah, but that's what he's saying. Like so say because of his like assertiveness or whatever, his willingness to
To this
bring up issues, it's like he might get a raise, he might get a promotion because he's effective at like what he does, right? And he says like, hey, I don't know, I've never asked for a raise, but because I'm not assertive, so I but it seems like it would come easier to him, right? Because he would be able to kind of call things out. But again, yeah, what I think the point is that a lot of these advantages and disadvantages are very circumstantial, right? We're not here arguing that like autism is like a great thing to be. It can be, but it's just not good or bad. It's just a way you can be. You know what I mean? It's like being,
sure.
again, like being gay. It's like
if
it's
you
just
want
it's not good or bad. Like you could say like 100 years ago, it's like if you were gay, like, oh, suppress the negative, the behaviors that like express themselves negatively in an environment. I keep saying that phrase, but it kind of
And
fits in.
some people still say that.
Exactly. There's plenty of communities where they say, no, you have to change on an individual level in order to fit in with us. And it's like, no, that doesn't really need to be the case. There's nothing really wrong with you being the way you are. You just need to find an environment that facilitates that, as long as you aren't hurting anybody, right? Which, like,
I remember
maybe religious fundamentalists say you are because you're hurting yourself because you're going to go to hell or whatever, right? But for everyone else who's in reality, like, it's fine. So just
agree. I
because
think
you live in
better
an environment that again, there's a social stigma around you, doesn't
there might
mean that you have to
be
roll back who you are. So yeah.
You shouldn't. No, I mean, you need to. The idea is to get along with more types of people.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so why is the idea not to get along with more types of people?
No, I said not necessarily. That means that's one
So
lens through which you could view like social value or social worth, right? You don't have to get along with everybody, but God no one does, right?
yeah, but like just being able to get along with more types of people to be able
Well,
to
do you
go to
mean bigoted people that hate you for what you are? If in that case, no, you don't have to get along with
well,
them.
you can call them bigoted people. You could just say that they have a different viewpoint.
Yeah, a bigoted viewpoint. Do you want to look up what the definition of a bigot is,
No,
Matt?
the definition of bigot is, let's think about it in terms of bigot. You could use that demographic, but let's look at maybe people who give you anxiety or people who you don't know if they're going to accept you for the way that you present yourself, whatever
Okay,
that may be.
that's a good example. Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
so
I mean,
how would you suggest an autistic person conduct themselves in terms of just new people in general?
well,
That's what you're saying, right?
they're going to have to figure that out because I can only communicate so much through language.
No, but what do you mean they have to figure that out? I'm asking you to be
They have
prescriptive. What would you tell an autistic person to help them like integrate into circles where they just don't know anybody, right?
um, I guess talk to people, see what they're like.
But what if you're
Um,
not good at talking?
well, that's definitely something you have to work at.
Right. So you
Being
have to express yourself. You have to express your traits in a way that might be seen as negative, right? In order to overcome the negative aspects of them, right? So that's the part where I would agree with you is that there is some level of immersion in the kind of like uncomfortable zone, right? That you kind of need to do in order to kind of grow as a person. But that's true for everybody, not just autistic people, right?
Right. I would.
what's the exemption of autistic people then? Like, why are you even calling them a certain
No, it's
thing?
not an exemption. It's just an acknowledgement that they exist and that they're valid.
My brain is literally wired differently than yours.
Yeah,
Like
and we're
it's
not going to ask Ben to rewire his brain just because we think he would do better with it, right? Even
Yeah,
if
they
he
think
would, which I'm not saying he would, I doubt it, right? I don't. That's not what I believe. But even if he would, it would be up to him and not sort of like social pressures to like I don't know, get like neurosurgery or some shit or like some kind of like
the
very
question.
invasive like therapy that like literally reprogrammed his brain and made him like not autistic, whatever that would look like, right?
My question is this, because what exactly is the different brain wiring? Like, what are the different
Okay,
chemicals?
so Matt, remember last week when I said, "Have you ever talked to a professional about this?" That's the point where you really need to get a professional opinion. And if you're just gonna hand wave everything because you're like, "Oh, where are they getting their money? They're just like these
Asking,
academics that go to, like, come
what do
on,
you
man, you
guys?
could say that about anything."
I'm asking, what do you
right.
know about your brain is wired different than
So
people who are not autistic, as you would say?
so I'm not a neurologist, so
Yeah,
I
we would have
like
to ask one in order to answer. Sorry, Ben, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like, yeah, dude, we would have to ask a professional in order to get that answer. We
I
don't know how it's
I
different. We just know that it is, right?
I can give one example of how my brain is wired differently. Mm.
Yeah, shoot, go for it.
Like I was saying with the driving thing, like the reason why I can't drive well is because like for most people their brains generally speaking of it is on a certain percentile. So you're on the 95th percentile or the 20th percentile or the first percentile or whatever. But for me, it's like all over the place. Like brain is 95. This part of my brain is 22. This part of my brain is 73.
And when you
Like
say
whatever.
sorry Ben, when you say percentile, do you mean like in terms of like peak functionality? Like how are we measuring this?
Yeah, that's how I understand it to
Okay,
be.
that's
Again,
that's kind of
I'm
a simplification, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Sorry.
yeah. So and all of this is what I understand it to be, how it was explained to me. So
Yeah.
don't don't cite me at the like top of the Wikipedia article for Asperger's or something. Um, but brain works when I'm driving.
Sorry, Ben, that
The
last sentence
part of
just cut out. Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
okay, so when I was trying to drive.
Yeah.
That handles visual spatial awareness. Like the percentile it's on actually isn't that bad. It's like I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like maybe like maybe 50 something. Like it's but there are other parts of my brain that are speaking louder when I'm trying to drive, and they're like drowning out
Mm-hmm.
brain that I need to focus on in order to like going on the road. So that's one example of how I'm like wired differently. I wouldn't be able to tell you the exact part of the brain or the exact percentiles, but I know that that is something I can point to and be like,
Well, what do you think it is? Like when you're trying to make spatial connections and there's more brain activity that you can sense, what are you thinking of? Is it music? Is it people talking to each other? You're imagining people talking to each other? Are you thinking of like lines coming together or colors or
I don't think it's like anything super concrete. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
that
like
sounds more sensational. He's just sort of like I feel like he's talking about just the amount of like information or sort of distractions or like the intercommunication between like the different parts of the brain. Like you said before about hemispheres, it just you could sort of like expand that to just the different parts of the brain, and that's more or less what it is. It's like the communication between different like neurons or whatever, right?
right
is
because like
human experience a sensation?
Huh?
If every instance of human experience is a sensation, then the most you can really do
I,
on a moment to moment level
Wait,
is try to.
who said that the human experience is a sensation? I didn't say that.
Oh, I would definitely say that because that's
Well, it's not
like
only a sensation, right?
it's mostly all sensations, different kinds of sensations, but the
Okay.
sense, then you have thought. A thought is a sensation, and emotion is a sensation.
I don't. I think okay, this is sort of like a philosophical argument, but Matt, I would even say the way that you just explained that is I knew I wasn't going to say it, but it shows sort of like a different methodology in how you sort of break down, like you said, human experience, right? Because I would say that no, there is more to human experience than just sensation. But the way that you understand the word sensation sort of opens it up to this, larger experience. And I would say that's something intrinsic to your sort of like worldview or your neurology, right? I'm sort of extrapolating here, but did you see my point? It's like there's all these different kinds of experiences, and it's not really on any of us which to say are and aren't valid, if especially if they've been sort of tested and researched through scientific means, right?
Yeah, there's only so many words, and I do really like language because it is it's the best thing we got for the moment to
Okay.
describe it. But there's a lot of different ways of knowing things, such as being able to have nonverbal conversations with yourself and stuff like that. You can really get a lot out of that, you
So
know.
can you describe that a little bit?
So a nonverbal conversation with yourself would kind of be like I would probably put it into like different people reacting certain ways. So if let's say if I'm walking down the street and uh I start thinking I don't think it, I would feel it. I would feel like I would personify it as angry donuts. And I don't really like the angry donuts.
Wait,
But
what?
I'm
You lost
yeah.
me. You lost me.
it's a feeling. I'm feeling a feeling, and for the sake of this conversation, let's say I personify it as angry donuts.
Wait, so can you describe this feeling? Like, are you experiencing something? Are you doing something that makes you feel this, or what?
At the moment, I am not experiencing
No,
the
in this
feel.
hypothetical,
Yeah, and the
is
hypothetical,
Angry Donuts a response to something? Sorry.
whatever it
I
may
want
be a
donuts,
response
dude.
to, I'm not exactly sure. So anyway, what I do is in
Okay.
response, I create the feeling of turning on an air conditioner. Is it logical that I'm turning on an air conditioner in response to the angry donuts? Not necessarily, but it just seems right to assuage the situation by turning on the air conditioner. And so I do it. Imagine myself turning on an air conditioner, and then that gets rid of the feeling of the angry donuts. And then I imagine the angry donuts turning into one cowboy smoking a cigarette. That's basically the conclusion.
Matt, I gotta be honest, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. This sounds like a wicked ass trip, son. This sounds like actual like, and I'm not like coming down on you. This sounds like not stoner, but like mushrooms logic. It's like, oh, if I do this, it'll counteract the cowboy energy, and then the
Yeah,
microwave will. But you know, Matt, if that's the way you want to kind of break down your universe, and you understand the fact that it's kind of like your own little like system for these things, whatever, man. You know, like you're not, I don't think you're crazy because of that. It's just you have this, again, you mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation, your sort of free association, right? And that can either help you or hinder you, depending completely on the situation, right?
Oh, sure. You use what you got.
Right.
exactly.
So, like, the way that, like, kind of mental illnesses, I think, are categorized, or what we consider a mental illness, really isn't anything. Like, you're never going to look in someone's brain and be like, oh, this person's mentally ill. It's all about what kind of interactions and what, like, behaviors and, like, the sort of the negative associations with a type of behavior, right? So, I think, I could be wrong about this, but being like transgender, I think in some uh
You're
yeah,
getting robot-y, Aaron. Aiden.
oh
I
my,
called you Aaron.
yes. um no, but like up until recently, I think I don't know which sort of like I don't know what circle this was, but you know, just being transgender was considered like a mental illness, right? Probably because you know, transgenders people's lives are pretty shitty. They have like one of the highest like suicide rates out of like any demographic, right? And people tend to assume that like, oh, that means that there's something wrong with them. That let's call it a mental illness, right? But with more research, it's like no, they suffer from mental illness a lot in part because there's like this again general societal disapproval of like what it means to be trans, right? Um, so I don't know. That's kind of just where I'm coming from. That
Yeah, the process for actually dealing with a challenge, an existential challenge, is going to vary from person to person. And, let's say that five people have depression. I think it's going to be likely that each of those five people might have to fix their depression a different way by thinking about things each a different way. It's really weird,
uh huh.
but that's kind of why depression as a diagnosis in that instance to me doesn't really seem that useful. It
Well,
doesn't.
it can
It's
be,
just
right? It's
it,
not saying, you know, you have depression, therefore do A, B, and C. It's just an acknowledge because you can't really go about solving a problem, and I would call depression a problem, if you don't really acknowledge the fact that you have it, right?
but it might not really be depression. Like the problem is not really depression
Well, who decides what's depression and what's not when it comes to the individual level, right?
on the individual level. I
Yeah,
guess.
like if someone
But
tells me they're depressed, I can't prove them wrong. Like
If you do try and prove them wrong, you make yourself look like an asshole.
I
but
guess
maybe
so, but like even if I did like a brain scan, right? Like we said that like depression, you know, we see like a certain parts of the brain light up or they don't light up or whatever, like the activity is shot. Even if we did that scan on them and it wasn't, you know, congruent to like what we see with depressive people, we still
yes.
can't say you are not depressed. We just can't. We would probably say something like your depression is like exhibiting itself, you know, because like even if they're lying to themselves, we just don't. We just don't know, right? We can just only observe through like behavior and like demonstration. And I wouldn't blame someone for saying they're not depressed, but it's not really up to them. It's up to the person, right?
Well, I actually think that maybe challenging an individual, saying you're not depressed, and making them come up with
Ooh, we
excuses as to why
tried
they
that
are, might be an
though.
interesting.
We really tried that for like generations and generations. And guess what, buddy? People just got more and more depressed. You might have heard about it less, but that's because people are just fucking pushing that shit down.
I don't really know. I think that there's a value to it that we might be under now that we have all this new research and technology.
To
We
what?
might be
Battle
able to
depression?
reutilize it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that
might.
you just Matt, you just proved my point. You acknowledge the fact that we need to battle depression. So that means that we have to
But
acknowledge the fact that it exists when it exists. Even if it
well,
doesn't exist in
we're
the way that
saying
we think it like should, right?
that's the problem. We're saying, oh, we're going to battle depression, but you're just kind of sticking a brushstroke on it. But I guess brushstrokes are useful.
Wait, what do you mean? You're speaking in metaphor, dude. What did I do wrong? What
Yeah.
did I say that was wrong?
Well, you didn't. Okay, so speaking in brushstrokes is useful, but I think that when it
Do
comes
you mean
to
broad
going
strokes?
around, no brush strokes,
Uh,
like
I don't know what
you're
it means.
you're
What to
you're
speak
you're
in.
painting. Okay, so I guess you could say it's an idiom, but it's that you're just you're getting a canvas and you're painting it because you're trying to paint a picture
Yeah,
and you don't know how you're going to paint that picture, but all
wait,
you know is that
no,
you got to paint the picture. So
wait.
you
So I don't know what you're saying by saying that though. What about my argument is like me? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of just.
because
It's kind
saying
of
that somebody
obvious.
has
Sorry, go ahead.
okay, so person A is depressed because they can't get laid, person B is depressed because they're poor, person C is depressed
Well,
because they have a bad relationship with their father and they see everybody as enemies. you know
there's a
these are
difference.
Sorry,
pertinencies.
Ben. You want to go ahead?
There's a difference of depression and clinical, like diagnosed depression. We've all been depressed before, but that doesn't mean that we have a condition.
Yeah.
Is it really, or is your brain just fucking it up because it's just so sick of whatever and it's not even bothering to try and solve the issue? It's just gonna
It depends on
hope
the
for help.
situation, Matt. He's just trying to tell you that you can like clinically verify, okay, this person is depressed, right?
A lot of the clinical verifications are just like things that an examiner checks off of a list, and a lot of the times the examiner doesn't really know what they're doing. They're like entry level
What?
jobs, and
Okay.
then
I
yeah.
I think to diagnose depression, you need to have many, many years of schooling.
Yeah, you have to be like a psychiatrist or
Yeah, but
psychologist.
it doesn't mean that they really have experience though, to the point where they can say, "You're not depressed. You told me your story. You need to get out and do this, and that'll
But
make you better."
But they do
Because
that.
good,
Yeah.
but they don't. They spend all the time in school. They spend all the time in school
Yeah,
studying for
learning how to
maybe they
diagnose
got
people with depression.
yeah,
That's
learning
why
how
they
to
go to
diagnose people
school,
with
Matt.
depression, but they don't know
What do
how
you
to
who do you mean
what do
they
you mean that
though? People like
the
spend their entire
diagnostics people?
Matt, people spend their entire careers studying like neurology and like
Yeah, and
psychology,
that's all
right?
they do.
And you can't just this would be an example of me saying like, you're painting with broad strokes here. You're just dismissing an entire field of like scientific theory just because you're saying, oh, they don't spend enough time like talking to people. It's like that's their entire
Yeah,
job, dog.
no, they're not doing the right kind of talking to the right kind of
Well,
people.
you have to prove that.
Are
You
they
can't just
are
say that.
they
You have to substantiate that with
I
some
don't
kind of like
well,
evidence.
okay, let's have a thought experiment. Do you think it's not unreasonable that there's people in the psychology field that have never traveled to foreign countries and try to learn a new language to survive in those countries? You ever suppose that a lot of psychologists never grew up in poverty, never had to deal with gangs, never had to suppose a lot of them never really dealt themselves with sexual abuse
That's
or
not how we
things like that
Ben, I mean,
to the
not Ben,
point
Matt.
where
That's
they
not
don't
how we
even know
study
how to
things though.
build a proper
Matt,
framework.
I
Matt.
mean, you can't say like, oh, well, we don't know, like they're not able to know what their mental because they didn't have the exact same life as those
Matt, that's
people.
like saying someone who studied plumbing all their life doesn't know how to be a good plumber because they've never plumbed toilets in like, Indonesia or whatever,
Well,
right?
no, it's
Because
not
they have
because
no, but that's
plumbing
no, because that's exactly what you're saying is that
plumbing is
because
not nearly
hold
as
on, hold on,
complicated as
hold
the
on,
human
hold on.
brain.
It's pretty fucking no, but it's a good comparison because it's the same line of thinking. You don't have to know how people think all across the world to like have, plus like culture and stuff like that that does influence like people's personalities and stuff like that, but when it comes down to like the actual like neurology, like the makeup of a person's brain, like we differ, but there's a lot of things you can take from you know again like such a vast field of study. Plus, do you think that people who haven't like who like studied in different locations and stuff like that haven't documented that and don't like incorporate that into the larger sort of fields of study? Like these things are like obviously incorporated into and sort of like standardized and like unified, but leaving enough opening for like the genetic variation between people, right? That's the whole point. Is gathering enough data and enough research, enough documentation to get some sort of objective. And yeah, people can be wrong. Like that's the same with any field. That's what I'm saying. It applies to any field, really. Yes, nothing is truly universal. It comes to like down to the what the individual really needs. But the whole field of study is to supplement that information so that you can correctly or like accurately deal with whoever's in front of you. Sorry.
Mm. I had to turn my phone over because it's 11:57 and my red filter is going off. I hate looking at that thing.
I don't know what.
Just
Oh,
like the
the red.
battery
No,
appearing as
the
red.
red filter is during most of the day. There's a little red tint on my screen, so I don't see all the blue light that naturally comes out of the screen.
Oh, because it gives you
It's a
AIDS.
good thing to have. Yeah, it gives me AIDS,
Okay, sorry, bad joke.
and then it gives me Ebola. So it's
Nice,
just a bad thing overall.
nice 2015 callback. I think I mentioned
Actually,
it.
there's been a lot of Ebola going on recently. You know, they're like over almost 2,000 people died in the Democratic Republic
Okay,
of Congo of Ebola
so Matt,
very recently.
do you kind of get my larger point that it's kind of like a little bit,
No,
a
I get your
stretch
larger point.
to just sort of dismiss an entire field of study just because yes, of course there are some people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, but that's the whole point of like having a like peer reviewed like field of study so we sort of outnumber those people.
Look, I have spent enough time in the therapy world and stuff like that.
Wait,
You
what do you
know, a couple
mean?
of years
Were you a
ago.
therapist?
No, I was on the
Oh,
patient
okay.
end of it, and
Well,
it's just not good at all. There's not These people really don't know what they're doing.
well, you
You
said these people. You mean the people that you worked with? Yeah, you might. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they
so
really
you're
don't know what
talking
they're
about
doing.
yourself, though. You can't just use
right.
that to
No,
prescribe
I'm
an
talking
entire.
about people in Princeton, New Jersey. You know, this is a
Exactly.
highfalutin
Exactly.
place. So if they suck this much in Princeton, New Jersey, how much do they suck elsewhere? And how many other people do I know that have gone to mental health facilities and not gotten the help that they needed because the people didn't know what to do with them? And people
But
who have gone
dude,
to important places in Chicago and all these other. I know people who've gone across the country just to go to a mental hospital because apparently that was the good mental hospital, and it still didn't work. And
Well,
after
what do you?
seeing
Okay,
all
hold on,
this
hold on, hold
stuff,
on, hold on, Matt.
uh,
What
let's
does it mean for
unpack this.
Matt? Sorry, Ben. I'll let you jump in right after. But like, but what do you mean by it doesn't work? Like they're cured?
they're not. They're not really even helped. They just get worse.
Well,
To a certain point, I there's all this peer reviewed that people say this. To a certain point, there comes a value of your own experience and calling out bullshit when you have your own data to sort of, you know,
so
see the way certain things are. And
Matt, your whole argument here is purely anecdotal. That's what you say
I think
matters. No, but
anecdotal
no, that's what you say
shit is
matters most. You say, yeah, whatever. I don't care about the research. I don't care about the data. Whatever works for me is what works. But then you're
it's
using
not
that.
what
No, but then you're using that to discredit an entire field of study because it didn't work for you and some of your friends. There are
yeah,
thousands of people
thousands of people who don't get the help that they
have been
need.
saved because they sought
Yeah, but
help.
a lot of people who
Matt,
haven't.
yes, you cannot dismiss the growth of like mental health awareness and productivity and the amount of like help that people have gotten because you and a few of your friends and I'm sure a lot of other people had a negative experience. Your negative experience doesn't cancel out the overwhelming positive influence that like the
Is it
psychological
really
like
that overwhelming though?
It's pretty overwhelming, dude.
you want to get into the
Why
stats?
is
I
it?
don't know. Like I think
Because
like you know
what types of people
violence
go
and
in
like
there and get the, what types of people actually get the help? Is it people who really needed it in the first place? Or
yes.
is it people who just thought that they did?
Yeah,
Or
no,
what's the
if you've
complexity there,
ever
you know?
been inside a therapist's office, you've needed to be there. That doesn't mean that you need it as badly as someone else, but you need it at least for your own like self-satisfaction, right? Even if you believe that therapy is bullshit, you still need to go to therapy in order to find out that it's bullshit.
That doesn't mean that it's a sustaining thing, though. I'm talking about what's good on a long term level. And you can definitely say that there is an incentive for the therapist to possibly make you dependent on them, or for the
Absolutely, because we live in a
therapist.
capitalist society and they're doing it ultimately
Well,
for
it's not
profit.
about capitalism. I
No,
mean,
it
okay,
actually is
Yeah, it
though. It
very much
actually
so
is.
is.
what's the better system to capitalism?
A public healthcare system, of course, well, single payer.
Well, why is that necessarily?
Uh, because then like healthcare professionals won't be incentivized to care for certain people because of the
They won't be
to the
incentivized to be good either,
for the
though.
monetary value. No, because assuming you go into that field, right? You want to help people. If that's the system that we're creating, where it's like you don't have to worry about your livelihood, then only the people who want to do that thing will do that thing. It actually creates a better system for like workers in general, really in any field,
How do you
because
know that, though?
no, on like a base level, you're not incentivizing people with money. You're incentivizing. You're like it's the incentive is already there because they don't have to worry about money. Now they have the freedom to do what they want to do. Right? They can study
Why do you
whatever they
suppose?
want because they're not
Why do
worried
you
about going to a
suppose
STEM field
that?
because they have to like pay whatever.
Yeah, but why do you suppose that people want to help others and it's not more about they want to be better than others?
It doesn't matter as long as they're helping
Well,
people. It
it
doesn't
kind of
matter.
does because yeah, but it
No, it
kind of
really
does because
doesn't.
it's
I
going
don't
to
care.
ask you
No, Matt,
if
I don't
everybody in the
care. I
society
don't care if you
had.
want to be the best therapist out there or if you just want to be a
No,
therapist
I'm
to help
saying,
people. Either way, you're helping people.
but you're saying that you want a society where people's needs are taken care of. So if people's
Yeah.
needs are all taken care of, who's to say that they're not just going to be selfish?
No,
What
people's
do you
needs
think
are
is the
never
default
all going to be
state?
taken care
Well,
of.
how dare they want their needs to be taken care of?
All right.
How dare
Yeah,
That's not
Ben.
what I'm
they
No,
saying.
Matt,
enter?
I can let you jump in here, Ben, because you haven't talked for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've jumped like 5 topics since last time I talked. Okay, so a lot to unpack here. Let me let me go back. What even led into this? I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the whole like psychiatrist like it's like you and possibly some of your friends, Matt, had a bad experience. That doesn't necessarily mean that those therapists were bad therapists. That just meant that they weren't the right fit for you. And you also have to ask yourself what specifically for out of that experience. If you wanted therapy as like a cure all for all your problems, then of course that's not going to be what it provides. But as someone who has relied on therapy in the past to like situation where I was like out of college and I was living with my parents and we were about to move away and my parents didn't really want me to move with them. Problems, long distance relationship problems, and like I was having a hard time getting a job, like to talk to about all that stuff helpful for me. And that, for a lot of people that has been helpful to them. Maybe if you saw someone that could tell you what hear, what you needed to hear, whatever at that time, you wouldn't have the view of therapy, of psychiatry that you do right now. It kind of goes back to like you were saying this stuff about um, kind of discredit them, total stuff of the people that say like, oh, well, we don't have to trust um, like scientists who talk about global warming because I found this one article online that supports my beliefs. Like that's what you reminded me of right now. And I'm not saying you ascribe to those beliefs, but the way you were arguing that very much reminded me of like those types of people.
Well, see, you're saying those types of people. These are all different topics, you know. The global warming issue is a different topic from the mental health
Of course,
issue,
of
and the
course.
reasons for being skeptical of either or are very different.
But it's the same sort of thing where it's like, oh,
Being
well,
skeptical of data experiences and things like that.
it's like, oh, like thousands of people have agreed on this thing, but because I found this one contradictory point of evidence, then I'm sticking with my guns. I know better than these people that have studied this for years and years.
Right.
I think that there are things that people who have studied it for years and years have probably overlooked because it's things that aren't really in their studies that they should know.
Yeah, but you think that. You don't know that. Like, you would have to provide. Oh, shit. Wait. Talk?
You like fuck up your
All right.
drawing,
Sorry.
or
No. Sorry. Yeah. I just got scared because I didn't see, but you guys weren't talking at all. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I'll give you an example. So a lot of the therapists I know are generally unaware of Jungian cognitive functions, which are
Wait. Do you mean Jungian?
generally Jungian cognitive functions, which are usually pretty
Okay.
useful or have been useful in different scenarios for understanding like
Uh.
different possible patterns of behavior, or at least creating like a structure for understanding our. And they don't really give me like that much. I can get more analytic stuff on a website that tells me why I shouldn't believe in them than asking the therapist should I believe in them. And then the therapist is like, well, if it works for you, and then I'll go on a website. The website will say, well, if you believe this, it's because you have anxiety and you don't want to like try to get to know people unconditionally. You just see them as a puzzle that you have to solve and stuff like that.
Wait.
Like,
What?
you know, like why
What?
wouldn't a
What
therapist
website
know
is
that?
this?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, this was a while ago. I was just reading things and I stumbled upon an article that told me that I shouldn't believe in them because of whatever reason.
Wait. You shouldn't believe in what?
Things of that nature. Jungian cognitive functions. There's 8 of them. The Myers Briggs personality test is based off of it,
Okay.
and it uses it in a different way. And the cognitive functions themselves are like sort of base ways of behavior, more or less.
Okay.
They're not the best things in the world, but I'm actually trying to think of a new way to view them myself, starting with the premise that the sensation ones are because every moment of human experience is a sensation.
Okay.
But
So, Matt, it's just weird to me that you would sort of hold up Jungian psychology, which I'm not super familiar with. I know,
well, there's
like,
other things
yeah,
too.
but my point is that it's weird that you would hold that up as like, as something when that's just you could easily discredit it the same way. Like, oh, I don't think that they really know what they're talking about, and I've pretty much discredited Jungian psychology in the same way that you would discredit like modern therapy. Like, it doesn't take much, mental legwork to just kind of like wave your hand and be like, oh, they're probably full of bullshit, right? No, you should be able to like, yeah, look into it and say like, how much of this stuff actually makes sense? But in order to start anywhere, you have to get some sort of outside opinion, right? So it just seems weird. Like, yeah, it's good to maintain like a healthy skepticism, but when you're just skeptical of like every source or just the sources that you feel like being skeptical against, it's like, well, what are you really doing then?
You know what would be interesting is if they could figure out how to tell what would best work for somebody. I've made a lot of progress reading like self-help books.
Oh God,
Way more than anything.
Well,
Way more.
some of them, like, there are some really awful ones, but like, that's a whole field too, and it might not be as reputable as psychiatry as a whole. But not everyone who writes a self-help book is
Yeah, I read 12 Rules for Life, but it wasn't really
okay,
that valuable to me. It was kind of um, it was just kind of like describing the problem.
okay, that's
That's how I
yeah,
viewed that one. But I've read other ones though. You know,
okay,
different things like that. And I found that more use has come out of me reading books than has coming out of therapy. But how would I have known that? I just I feel like I kind of stumbled upon that solution by chance. But why is it that nobody told that to me?
because no one would
Shouldn't
necessarily know.
yeah.
but shouldn't they know these things? Like, how do these people not know these things? I feel like if
People
I
aren't
studied psychology,
psychics.
That's a hyper
I don't know.
specific, like that's a really high like I know by how, like studying you
See,
and
yeah,
psychoanalyzing you. Yeah, that's what
yes.
therapists do.
No, they don't psychoanalyze you. See,
What?
I always wanted.
What?
See, this is what I kind of wanted.
What?
This is what I always wanted out of
What?
therapy. I wanted them to challenge me.
What?
This is what I would always say to them. I wanted them to challenge me.
What
I
are you
wanted them to
saying?
to figure me out
What do
and
you
then
mean
like
therapists
try
don't
to
psychoanalyze you? What are you talking about?
because they psychoanalyze they need to,
What? What'd
Like
you
I
say?
didn't get that help from them.
What'd you say?
I don't need to hear you going on and on about how, oh, it was just me and not anybody else. Because
Wait, what?
I
look,
mean,
I
it's
know
not. That's
I know a
not
lot of people who
really.
say that therapy is bullshit, and I'm not the only one. And I know a lot of therapists who are absolutely insane,
Yeah,
and they go into
because
the field because
no,
they're insane and they
any
want to like.
no what no that's you how would you even know that no anybody of any fields like any fields at all any group of humans right a certain percentage of them are going to be in it for the wrong reasons or just not sufficient right and you could say that about any group that doesn't at all dismiss the efficacy of the people in that group right
Well, the psychology it kind of does, because I mean, you got people coming to you because they're insane and they need to be fixed, and you can't
oh
even
that's
fix
kind
yourself.
of a
I know. I'm
unnecessary
putting a bad narrative on it on purpose because I'm trying to like
why
get a punch here. Cause I don't know. That's just what I want to do with it. I want to
well
make you think about it that way.
it's kind of a
Think
really
about it
like
in a
it's
way
an
that
overly simplistic view of the way that
does it
people deal
scare
with
you?
no,
Because here's the
no
thing. Sometimes I wonder if like the way that you should think about something is to think about it in the way that scares you.
uh okay I prefer to think about things in like a rational way I don't really base my observations or my conclusions based on fear that's a pretty bad way to come to conclusions because it's like
Yeah,
fundamentally illogical
right.
Well, yeah, in a
Well,
certain sense. That's
so
not what I really meant, though.
so I don't
like that's like local news logic. Are your
The local
kids
news logic.
participating in this new phase called pea potting? It's where they stick pea pods up their ear holes until
oh
it
you should have
goes
said pee
into their
holes
brains.
yeah so uh but yeah I
Like,
mean if you're saying you should try to research stuff that frightens you yeah of course maybe you'll be less frightened by it afterwards right but
but
if you're sort of like infusing your logic with like fear-based like conceptions of like that seems really weird I don't even know if that's what you meant really but that's what it sounded like you were
Maybe
saying
not. I mean, I'm thinking
okay
kind of like the things that you're afraid of, like, well, it's kind of like you think about interpersonal relations that you have, and you end up thinking about a bad Freudian slip that you might commit You guys ever get that? Like you get like the random thought and it pokes into your head that you're gonna do something really stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like like it's gonna be out of your control. Like you're gonna have like a Freudian slip.
Uh-huh.
I call it that.
One of my number one fears is messaging someone that they're busty instead of busy.
That's
You
that's
know,
really
like
specific. But actually,
yeah,
you can
but
probably use that to your advantage sometime. Like, it's a girl you're dating is like, "Are you busty?" And then like say busy, and
Yeah.
she responds with,
It's
"Oh
like
yeah,
it's
I'm a
like
double D."
it's like, Mom, I really want to get busty with you. I mean busy. I want to get busy with you. I mean, no, I don't want to fuck you, Mom. Is that what you're talking about?
it's like anytime I type it, I worry that I'm gonna hit that T
Yeah.
by accident. Like, oh, I hope you're not too busty. Like,
Yeah. So Matt, yeah, so this is the thing. So what's your point?
Well, my point is that I don't know how good that is.
What do you mean how good it is?
Like if you don't have those thoughts, those fears that you're gonna have a Freudian slip, if you just eliminate those fears, then are you gonna have a Freudian slip one day and you're gonna like accidentally say something you're not supposed to say?
Maybe. Yeah, but so you're arguing that like you shouldn't be so you shouldn't be hyper focused on the things that sort of like the mental sort of hiccups that you suffer from. Is that what you're saying? Not you, but like the
Mental hiccup.
huh?
Well, I mean, maybe you should be hyper focused.
Well,
There's way too many hiccups
well,
and
if
it's
you're
I'm
preventing
so
you from living.
confused.
so well, I'm just having a hard time like breaking down what he means. So, sorry, do you want to state the argument again, Matt?
It's not really an argument. I'm just speaking,
Okay, sorry.
but
All right. Anyway,
it's fine. I'm just speaking. I'm just asking questions.
well, I didn't mean like an argument, but I meant like
No,
you're
yeah. Same thing. Like I'm
yeah.
not even posing that the syllogism has a conclusion. I'm just kind of
Okay.
think, you know, because it seems like you could easily do that, but because you have to separate the fact from, well, okay, you're thinking about this in your head, but if you actually had to do it, if you end up, uh, let's say that there's
Oh,
actually I'm not going to use that example.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't want to use that example because I think that example in itself might be too much of a slip.
Okay.
So we'll
okay.
just leave it at that. Yeah. Sorry.
So, all right. So
I guess I'm
let's.
disappointing you
I
guys
think I think
today.
I found a good segue. So you're saying you are. This is something you deal with, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're afraid that you're gonna say the wrong thing, right? Like Freudian slip means specifically like it sounds like the thing you were trying to say, but you say something that like there's a phonetic sort of connection, right? There's a similarity, right?
It's kind of like what ends up happening is that you say something that's on your mind or that is in your like subconscious mind,
Well, sometimes you
and
just
it's more apparent to other people than it is to you in your decision making, you know?
oh, well,
But
usually
maybe
usually
it
if someone
being
has a
more apparent.
usually when someone has a Freudian slip, they recognize it, right? Or someone else points it out. They don't just keep on talking as if it didn't happen,
Right.
right?
Yeah. They
Sorry, what was that, Ben?
Well,
usually pretty embarrassed afterwards.
Yeah, so like an example would be like I gotta go. This isn't really an embarrassing one, but like, oh, I gotta go feed my hog. You meant to say dog. I don't. Would that count as a?
yeah.
But that's
But
not a
see, the
Freudian
thing
slip because
is, it
it's
is
not
Freudian.
it's not highlighting some sort of underlying thought though. So I'm trying to think of like a good example.
Well, it actually might be because
Oh,
you might actually be thinking of
I
pigs.
have one. Okay. So when you call your teacher mom, right? I think that would slot into the idea of
Yeah.
a Freudian slip, right?
Yeah.
So are you afraid? Is this something that you deal with? Is this something that you're worried about?
Well, I mean, every now and then, I think I got it under control. It's not keeping me up at night, but
Okay, all right.
I just
I thought
figured
you
it'd
I
be a
thought you
good
brought it up.
topic to use.
I thought you brought it up as an example of like, okay. So my segue was going to be like, you know, how that kind of factors in into like the idea of like political correctness, which is something that I find to be very fascinating and like how other people define it. So I would say that me personally, right? Oh boy. Okay. So I am somewhat concerned with what other people. I'm very much conscious of like optics, right? Like how I come across, and if if I'm communicating what's in my head effectively, right? Because we only have these really sort of very complex, but in other ways archaic systems of communication, like body language, or usually like language, like speaking or text, right? But
Hmm.
there is so much variation. I sort of like to say that we all speak slightly different languages because we kind of do.
Yeah.
If we say things that we have, people have like specific relationships with certain types of words, and like even like learning an actual different language, it's like the words don't mean the same things. Like there's like that thing that like Inuit language has like 1,000 words for snow because they're, I don't know if that's true, but like give it as an example, like
There's like 20, but yeah.
sure, whatever. Yeah,
It's
fuck,
still a lot.
yeah, fuck those snow blowers. No, it's not, yeah, all my Inuit fans. I'm just kidding. Um, so, but like, yeah, it's a complete. They're like sort of like the way that their brain breaks down the idea of snow. It's like it's not just snow. It's like all these different types of, you know what I'm saying though, right? So I just want to. I'm
Yeah,
just
it was
saying
very useful for them.
I'm just yeah, because they lived in an environment where they need to be more clear about like what types of snow were there, right? And that's not even on just a literal level. Like that kind of informs like how we think about things on a sort of philosophical or like more metaphorical level, right? Because we are not just using language as a like we don't just state facts all the time. Like we use language in so many different ways that something could mean completely different things if it's said just with a different tone of voice, right? Or if it's a different person saying it, or if they're saying it in a
Yes.
certain accent. Like there's all these different qualifiers that like like alter and augment the way that we think we're coming across to the way that we're actually coming across. So I think you could agree with that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. So my next point would be that so the attempt and the effort to mitigate these miscommunications or these like social infractions, I would kind of call that political correctness, right? Because it's kind of filtering yourself to not come across in a way that you don't mean to, right? So the way that usually plays out, at least in like discourse or whatever, that turns into people not using certain terms that are either antiquated or the group that you're referencing doesn't approve of said terms. So you're like, oh,
Well, I think
I don't want
actually,
to come across as somebody who uses these terms like knowing that they affect people negatively, right? I want to alter my language so I
uh-huh.
become more clear. So
Well, that's what political correctness is. Political correctness is a form of that, but there's other forms of
what? Sorry, what?
not acting autistic. Is a form of not political correctness, but like I guess social cohesion. But I wouldn't say social cohesion. It's like social censorship. You know, you don't act a certain way, don't say certain things, stuff like that. It's like a
Sure,
form of censorship.
sure.
And you might be able to say censorship because you're censoring what might be natural for you.
Yeah, self
If you
censorship. Yes.
naturally if you naturally have insecure behaviors and you have to censor them in order to talk to people, it's a censorship, and then you act differently. But I've been thinking recently, it's a good phrase to go around saying act before you speak. They say think before you speak. Maybe you should act before you speak, because when you're acting a certain way, you're
Wait.
going to naturally
What?
get into the mindset of thinking better.
Uh, uh, I don't. I don't know if I can sign off on that, but I think
Yeah,
that
that doesn't.
there are times when action is needed, right? And it's time to stop thinking and just do it.
No, I mean
I
act
agree
as
with
in like
that.
put on a character. I mean act as in put on a character different from what you're actually different from your actually hand
Uh,
of card.
I think we're
Sure.
mixing
I
metaphors
mean,
here. Because
Probably
usually
because
when
I'm
people
saying the word act.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, when people say like think before you act, they usually mean like before you do something that's like quote unquote like dangerous or drastic or like whatever before you make some sort
Hmm.
of like make a choice that make a choice that has potential consequences, right? You should think hard about it. So yeah, you should also think before
Yeah.
you speak. Or wait, is that what you said? Think. Well, either way,
Well, I
you should.
said act before you speak, but I don't mean
Yeah.
act as in do an action. I mean act as in, change your body language and your tone of voice and the way that
Uh,
you're coming across. Act before you speak.
sure.
okay.
Get into character. Get into character first, and then say what you're gonna say.
I mean,
Um,
that's sort of true.
would
Like,
you be would you really be acting though? Because at that point, aren't we all acting all the time, right?
yeah, I
Because
Not
mean,
everybody is. I mean,
because we've sort of diluted this term acting to just sort of cover all behavior, right? So at
Mhm.
that point, it's like I don't think you'd be putting on a character if you just sort of like I mean, in a sense you would, but not you know you wouldn't necessarily
like,
have to think about it that way. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I think we all have sort of um, modes, I guess, that we express throughout the day. Like, I can't actively at work the same way that I act around my roommate, the same way speak to my mom on the phone, the same way I speak to my brother on the phone, the same way I speak with my friends. Like, you do have to do this certain circumstances, and you're not necessarily being 100% to, like, without thinking about anything stances. At the same time, it's not like when I go into work, like pretending to be a completely different person. I do put on a different inflection. I am a lot smilier on the phone. I'm,
Yeah,
it's
you've been
still
smiling this whole time, right? Just ear to ear. You just had a big grin this whole time.
yeah, I guess I'm not. I don't have to. You're not old ladies that I have to help find the shopping cart icon
Yeah,
page. Um,
I think yeah,
so
I think you're sort of explaining the idea of like code switching, right? It's like
right.
people aren't these sort of static. They're reflective of their environment. I would say they aren't just sort of these static thing. They need an environment to express themselves in, and that environment is constantly changing. So to say that any one person is like sort of a static like personality type or kind of like brain chemistry or whatever, however you want to categorize it, we're sort of it's sort of fluid, right? It doesn't mean it
Well,
doesn't exist
there's some
though.
people who will seek out different states more so than others.
Uh,
And there's
yeah.
probably a standard deviation for that. People who will seek it out the most versus people who will seek it out the least. And if you seek it out the least, then you're basically
Wait,
stuck with the
seek
luck of the
what
draw
out?
or whatever. Seek out different states of existence to expand your horizon. I mean, you can be the type of person who doesn't try to expand your horizons, but like I said, at that point, you're basically just rolling dice based upon whatever you were born into because you're not really getting out there.
Sure, yeah,
You know.
I would generally
So
agree with that.
I suppose so.
But
Um,
so what do you? Okay, I mean, yeah, I can get down with that. But anyway, so we were talking a little bit about political correctness, though, right? So I think it comes down to like what degree you're going to modify your set vocabulary or your set sort of definitions or whatever, just the way you come across to um, like fit into to achieve like social cohesion, right?
well, I think that to a certain extent there might be some sort of nonverbal aspect to it.
Totally.
Um, You know, like if you're not really paying attention to your body posturing and stuff like that, people get really picky about that stuff. But, you know, again, it's to catch liars. I did say that before, but it wasn't my turn to speak or whatever. Yeah, you know, some of these behaviors like not making eye contact and stuff. If people are really, really good liars and people aren't all acting all the time and trying to get themselves across in many different, that's probably why we have all these social complications, is because you don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't, and who's trying to take advantage of you. And that's why you have all these complicated social games.
Uh huh.
Um, I think it's annoying, but I don't have to deal with it, so
So,
whatever.
like, I think I want to draw this distinction between people who are actively deceptive and people who just don't sort of like wear their heart or their mind on their sleeve, right? Because these are sort of like two different
Hmm.
things, right? Because I would say
Well, you could
I would say
have
that
someone who's
sorry, I would say that most people sort of fall into the latter category where they're just sort of apprehensive about giving too much themselves away, right? Uh, and then the other part is
oh.
the former are trying to actively mislead people. So I'd say majority of the time it's the latter where they're just trying to act normal, what they think of as normal, right?
Mm, maybe we're not really getting saying that, like, if you have the best of intentions and you go up to somebody and, you know, maybe you're not looking at them with good eye contact or your body posture is bad, they might think that you have some other type of intention. Or what is it?
Uh
Or are
huh.
you more invested in what they think of you than you're invested in your own enjoyment? And why is that? And, you know, a lot of layers in that direction,
Right. Yeah. I.
because otherwise there's no way to just take somebody's word for it. They could just write
Uh,
whatever they would, say whatever they want.
yeah. So I think a good like something that I sort of started to notice is that so again talking about like autistic people, right, or people just with like any form of like social anxiety. I would say that autistic people suffer from maybe more of it, but just really anybody that experiencing like any social anxiety, right? The body language tells for someone like experiencing anxiety also kind of like overlap sometimes, or like they can overlap with the way that people express like standoffishness or like uh, dissatisfaction or disinterest, right? So a lot of times I could like think back to like basically like high school days, right, where you just walk down the hallways and you see a bunch of like expressions and you think that people are either looking at you or avoiding looking at you, and like all these like different like, oh, what was that, like, just so much like social like stimulation coming from all sides that it's really hard to tell. And maybe to other people you look like you're just like annoyed or whatever, but really you're just as anxious as everybody else, right? I don't know if I can speak for your guys' high school, the way you experience in high school, but like that's something that I kind of noticed as I went older. It's like, oh, maybe this person wasn't like annoyed with me. Maybe they just were also, nervous, right?
Sure.
Does that
And it's also
sound?
really,
Sorry,
you know,
yeah.
it's also really weird when you see people who are from, like, different cliques and they are actually more anxious of you, but you wouldn't understand why because they're from such a different demographic social
What do you
clique
mean?
than you
They're
are.
more anxious? Do you say they're more anxious of you or than you?
Yeah, they're more anxious of you than you would be of them in any circumstance, and you're
How,
just left
how do
puzzled
how do you mean? How are
why,
they anxious of you? Are you talking about like the popular
for
kids?
whatever reasons. Yeah, let's say that the popular kid is really anxious of you, and you to why that would be. It's because whatever the popular kid has structured in his mind that relates to you and relates to whatever you appear to be representing
Uh
is
huh.
completely different from what would make you have anxiety about another person. Just a completely different world of theirs. It's very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Are you saying? So the way that I'm sort of taking that is that someone with like social power would or social like what's it called, privilege, whatever you
Social
want,
capital.
whatever you
Well,
want.
see,
Yeah, yeah.
that's probably a
No,
thing, is that
but
they're
like
probably not seeing it in terms of that.
No, but
you
like,
know, because
but why else would someone be made anxious unless they were like somehow threatened? So you're saying that the people with like more social capital or like social power, whatever, they could be threatened by somebody with less because it's sort of like challenging their uh, in some way like challenging their hierarchy. I don't know.
I
well, I
think
mean, that's possible. I guess it's either that or they think that maybe person expresses certain emotional qualities that they're
Okay.
not used to or that they have insecurities about. But maybe in your mind, you're so used to all of these things that you wouldn't even notice that what you consider to be normal in your head is considered abnormal to them
Yeah.
and different to them. And I think that's so interesting. Or kind of like, here's a really interesting thing. You ever done mushrooms?
Yes.
You ever wonder if what your trip is what it's like to be somebody else's sober, and somebody else's trip is what it's like to be your sober.
Yeah. Have you ever? Wait. So you have done mushrooms?
well,
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry,
I've
Ben.
done a lot of different.
Ben, we've been chatting a lot. You go ahead.
it sounds like maybe your sober is someone else's trip if the thing about angry donuts is anything to go off of.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
Um,
but visuals aside, feelings, thoughts, stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, and I get what you're saying too about like people in different social circles or whatever. Well, and in some ways, it's back, middle school lunchroom or whatever, um, going up to the popular kids table, not being like completely aware that what I was doing was like a fool of myself or whatever, and just kind of going up and sitting next to them, like them to do the opposite. If someone in a popular clique needed to rely on me at that point for something, because at that point I was at like peak nerd. I've been a big nerd for my whole life, but that was like
Your high school days, you said?
my middle school days.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, high school to an extent too, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, middle school where like every other sentence was about Nintendo.
Wait, how is that different from now?
Um, like I would, like anything that you would say.
Right.
So if went back to the donuts thing from earlier, I would be like, "Oh, donuts!" So like the coffee and donuts level from Travis Strikes Again. Like I would just tie everything back
All right.
into
I thought you were gonna say
Nintendo.
donut planes, but yeah.
That's probably the more obvious example, huh? But
Yeah.
um, but like for a popular kid over to me, I would imagine that would be more embarrassing to them. Like,
Because they're really concerned that if they're caught being around you saying that it's going to lower their status. They're going to lose their good friends, things like that. Then they have to wonder, oh, are they really my good friends? If they're going to run away from me just because I'm talking to this guy who only talks about Nintendo. They don't even want to start thinking about that world. They're really afraid of it. And all you're doing is
Huh.
talking about Nintendo, and you don't even notice.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's kind of
guess.
like when, some people, okay, maybe we're in middle school and we're nearby the fifth graders who don't care about it, but then, oh, this is totally different, but I'll just say it for funny. Let's say you're 40 years old and you're around fifth graders and you start feeling that,
You start feeling what? Sorry.
you know, people think that you're a pedophile if you're talking to or you're just around the fifth graders.
Wait. Sorry. Can you start the example over? I missed it.
Did I cut out like a robot or did you just not
I
follow
was
it?
able to hear you just fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if something weird's on Aiden's end.
Pretty much all I heard was pedophiles. So.
That's a great word to come in on.
Yep.
You know, so sitting in the park bench, we speak. Um, what we're doing is we're saying that, maybe these people. Did I tell you about the part where like the person's concerned that they're gonna lose all their good friends because they're around this kid who's only talking Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I said that, and then I said, well, maybe it's kind of like you're 40 years old and you're around fifth graders and you're concerned that people are going to think you're a pedophile, but when you're 10 and you're around fifth graders, or you're 15 and you're around fifth graders, it's a totally different story. But that's a little bit different from what
Yeah,
we were talking
I'd
about
say
with
the
the.
reasons that people would like look at you weird. Plus, why? Well, that's the thing. It's like you said 40-year-old. Like, what opportunities do 40-year-olds, unless they're their like teacher or like parent or something in like a social like a sleepover. I don't know. Like, what reasons would you have to?
Sleepover.
What
Oh man.
reason? What reasons would you have to be around a group of people like that? So I think yeah, that's kind of it is kind of different, but yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean that's like kind of a serious thing too, though, because like a woman is in a park and she's like taking pictures of like kids playing at the park, then it's like, oh, I just, it's a cute thing
Uh,
to capture this moment,
Well, there
you
would be
know.
there would be a different reason for a guy to do it and a girl to do it, and
Well,
also I don't think women take
that's
random pictures.
not necessarily though.
the assumption, though,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
that there would be a different reason, but a guy who's just into photography, could be doing the same thing, but society would lay on him because of the pedophile stigma.
Yeah, and I would say I would say that it's good to keep a healthy skepticism towards that. I think in both of these situations, men or women, I think the culture has kind of moved to where, yeah, a woman would probably have an easier time like getting away with it. But in either case, you should probably ask parents. I don't think any parent nowadays, like worth their salt, just really like says okay to any stranger photographing their kids, right? I mean, you could take a picture of a park with like kids kind of playing in the background, but if you're like going up to kids and like photographing them, it's like, it's kind of different.
Well, no, you could be like humans in New York and then like talk to an 8-year-old and ask him where he got the bag of fish,
Well,
and then put it on Facebook. And
you should probably like their parents should
I'm
probably be
guessing he
around.
does. I'm guessing that happens to some extent. Like he asks the
Yeah, I
parents.
don't think this dude is just like going up to like kids and junk, saying like, "Hey, how do you like that sandwich?"
Children of
you
New
know?
York.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
That
a
would be an
parent,
interesting one to do.
well, I think they do
Like
that. Yeah,
ask.
they do go to
I think there is
go
a
up to
children in
kids.
New York.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one
The,
specifically, but there's definitely children included in the in the series. But yeah, I don't know how we really got to this topic. We were talking about like social cohesion, and then we got to like fucking pedophiles in the park. um, but yeah, I don't know.
that's the wild ride.
Yeah, so before we
Never
like
know
wrap,
where it's gonna go.
yeah, before we wrap, I don't know if it's I'm not saying that we have to wrap up or whatever, but it's getting close to one. But like Ben,
Indeed.
was is there anything that you think wasn't kind of covered or that was covered in the last stream that you wanted to like go over?
I mean, I feel like there definitely was, but it's hard to
Aw,
like.
someone said fantastic art to me. Sorry,
Oh,
I don't know who that was. Did either of you say fantastic art?
wasn't
I
me.
didn't say it.
Nice, dude. I got a fan.
There, you got one person watching.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. There was one like thing that I really feel like I don't remember what it was, and I feel dumb for it. Um,
That's okay.
I'll think of it, and I'm gonna try and think of it now if I can. But
Do you want us to just talk while you try to remember?
I mean, that's kind of what's been going on the whole time. But
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, no, are you all right? Yeah. Anyway,
I'm just throwing shade.
okay. Well, I don't know.
No,
You guys have been cutting out a lot, so I feel bad because like anytime you like go into a thing, I have to keep interrupting anyway to like actually hear what you're saying. So I gotta work on that. Larry is like surprisingly clear. He wasn't really cutting out at all, but I don't know if it's just like my CPU is anyway.
no, man. I don't have a great mic or anything. I'm just using the mic on the computer.
It's not
so I
the
don't know
it's
if-
not the mic quality. It's like it has something to do with the connection or something. I don't know. But anyway,
I don't either. Yeah, I know. Like we're talking like sort of stuff. We were talking.
I don't know. We could talk about E3 until you
It's
see if you remember.
I just there was something about Asperger's that I wanted to bring up.
Okay. All right. Well, Ben, if you think of it, let us know. But so Matt, do you play video games at all?
I really don't.
Oh, okay. Well, you're probably a better person than me then. Um, okay. You just what do you do with your time? What do you do in your free time?
I don't really have a lot of free time right now,
Okay.
but
You said you worked at as a day trader, right?
yeah,
All right. So
I'm in
what?
the middle of studying that, so
Okay.
that's
So
taking up most of my time.
wait, you're studying it or you're doing it, or both?
Well, I'm like doing it every now and then, but only when the trades are really, really obvious. Sometimes it takes like a couple days for them to pop up, so I'm trying to figure it out so I can like do it like once or twice a day,
Okay.
and then at that point I'll have figured it out.
Uh-huh.
So
What does it entail exactly? Is it it sounds kind of like a stockbroker. I'm really don't know.
yeah, it's trading currencies, foreign currencies, going from the
So,
Canadian dollar to the Japanese yen, something like that. I mean, it's really boring, but the whole point isn't to be fun, it's just to make money so I can do other things.
well, how do you
Which
make
would,
you're just converting currencies?
I
yeah, I'm
think
converting.
What's up?
think I remember kind of.
Okay, this shit was boring anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Matt.
Yeah, I mean we can talk about day trading if you want.
I was genuinely curious because I honestly didn't know how it worked, but yeah, we were waiting for you to get on board, so let's not drop the thread.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about certain points like, oh, you shouldn't even think of yourself as someone with Asperger's because in the back of your mind you're gonna like have certain things that you're gonna kind of like want to limit yourself. It's not so much that I try as hard as I can. It's just kind of knowing your limits. Like I was in drafting and rendering class in college, and so I was making like for like the stage and stuff from like a bird's eye view, and it was really like complex and complicated. And there was one particular project that I tried doing it without help for as long as possible, and at a certain point I just had to go into this and say, look, I want to do as best as I can. I think that there are certain like visual spatial things that are getting in my way. And then once I explained it to him, he was kind of able to work with me more and help me understand it. I try not to use it as a crutch whenever I can,
Mhm.
because like there are certain people that are diagnosed, people that aren't diagnosed, that'll say like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry that I, called you a fuckface. I have Asperger's, and sometimes I don't always think." They use it as an excuse for bad behavior, doing something that is just like code switching. They're just acting based on impulse or whatever, and is not ever who I want to be, but I want to be able to recognize when I have certain weaknesses. I try not to like introduce myself as the guy with Asperger's, but if people ask, I'll tell them, and if to bring up, I will bring up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
that sounds pretty fair. Matt, you want to respond to that?
Well, I guess that's a fair way to go about it. I think maybe it's an interesting idea to suppose that it could be a goal for you to eventually say, I used to have it.
Uh,
That's a type of conjecture that I have based upon the models that I'm working off of for understanding things.
okay.
Well,
Things of that nature.
say now, I used to exhibit much stronger traits and I used to have less self control. Asperger's, but I don't think I'll ever be able to say I used to have Asperger's because,
Yeah.
like I said, it's like the wiring of my brain is different and there's not really any way for me to change that. But cool things about having Asperger's is like I'm able to kind of see how far I came. I used to not be able to understand idioms by the fourth grade. We had that whole lesson about idioms, and all the kids were like, "What's an idiom? It sounds like idiot." And I was like, "I got this in the bag. I know all this shit. I got trained in this shit." Like I there it took me a really long time to learn how to dance or to snap my fingers or to whistle or to tie my shoes, and I can do all that shit now. And I have a full-time job in New York, and when I was a kid, when I was like a preschooler, and they didn't quite know what was going on, but they knew that something was up. Someone an IQ test on me and said I had an IQ of like 75 and would be institutionalized as an adult. And so to the life I have now, like I can be proud of that and be like, I used to have it a lot worse. But I can't say I used to have Asperger's, but I can say I've been able to hone those skills and kind of like use the good things about Asperger's to my advantage. I can be proud of. That's something I can take to the bank.
See, that's really funny that you said that you had an IQ of 75 and then you're like, well, I'm operating completely differently because I was tested for that when I was younger and I got 77 and like
Yeah,
my
I
life's
mean,
kind of pretty mediocre except for the fact that, if I didn't discover day trading, I don't know what the fuck I would be doing. Um, that's just the truth, at least as far as I know. I mean, it's my own not understanding what to do, I guess,
Yeah.
because I wasn't shown the right models or anything like that. But yeah, if it wasn't for discovering that, I don't know what I would do, and it kind of aggravates me that a lot of politicians want to tax it to the point where I wouldn't be able to trade it anymore. And a lot of them don't really seem to understand it either. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's gambling, blah blah blah." There's just so much bullshit on the internet. That's one of the reasons why I'm skeptical of a lot of things that like I read up. You could look up because anytime you look up anything related to trading, especially when it comes to forex, it's a bunch of shit. Don't do it. It's you're not going to make any money at all. All
Uh-huh.
this stuff, but I've been able to figure out how to get it to work. So it's kind of like,
I mean,
what are these people on the internet talking about?
sure, yeah. Someone making up lies on the internet? How could they?
Oh, but these people are
That
like, oh,
Buster
man,
Bunny
it's all
quote.
over the place. It's all those important people like Investopedia says it, or uh, Quora.com, and the
Yeah.
people who comment on Quora.com have these advanced degrees or
Okay.
whatever the fuck. And
Yes.
I'm just like,
heathen.
well,
Wait. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
You called that character. He is a bunny, and his name is Buster, but Buster Bunny is from Tiny Toon Adventures. This is Buster Baxter from Arthur.
Sorry, Buster.
God.
I know both their names are
Get it
Busters,
right.
but all right. Sorry. I feel like that's you're calling me out hard on
wait,
a
what was
very much
the
a.
guy from?
So Buster Bunny is from Tiny Toons, which I know that, right?
Mm.
I'm just using shorthand because if I say Buster on Arthur, not everybody knows who I'm talking about. So shut the fuck up, Ben. All right? If you can't handle my referential knowledge, you can get the fuck out. Sorry.
Just saying, if you're gonna reference it,
All
you
right.
gotta know what
Okay.
you're
All
talking
right.
about.
All right. So anyway, uh, all right, yeah, Matt. Well, I was gonna ask you is that like, so I don't, we don't have to get like super personal or whatever, but I don't mind like sharing it on my end. Like I'm out of work right now. I live with my parents. Like there's a lot of stuff, from that was sort of like taught that I should value, that really serves no kind of purpose to me, right? Like
What
there's
things?
so well, um, I don't know. This is kind of like a lazy example, but like sports, right? It's like I grew up like being pushed into several environments where it's like, no, you have to care about this thing. And like now that I've gotten older, it's like, oh yeah, you can have an appreciation for sports, but to the level that it's sort of like programmed into like what it means to be like both like a man, but also just like someone who lives, I guess maybe specifically in America, that it's like something that you're supposed to value, and if you really don't give a shit about it, like I mostly mean like growing up, right? Like we're all sort of supposed to, I don't know, learn about like basketball and soccer and all that stuff, but I see it more as an excuse just to maybe you just get some exercise or like team building or something like that. Like, there's no reason it has to be like you could do so many different team building exercises, like physical activities that don't involve like these very specific, traditions or whatever, right? So that's kind of the way
Yeah.
I would think about it, where it's like I don't, I don't have to care about this thing. Now that I've gotten older, I've seen more of a I'd say I'd have more of an interest in like doing it, but in terms of like following any sport, it's like I don't, that's cool for you guys,
Yeah,
but
there's cared about following sports so much. I mean, I did a little bit in school because I was trying to fit in, but I really hated it.
right.
The thing is that I think physical education is important in school. I think it's good to be physically intelligent to an extent, to be able to be
What do you mean?
nimble.
What do you mean by So you mean like gross
Um,
motor versus like fine motor skills?
well, both. If you can kick a soccer ball into a field, if you're not a jock, but you're able to compete well with the jocks, that there's a skill in being able to play the game in phys ed and
Wait, so you mean
be
that?
competitive with.
Sorry, so you mean there's a value to it that goes beyond just the skill itself? There's sort of like a social value to it.
Not so much. No, I mean uh, kinesthetic intelligence.
Uh
It's a
huh.
good thing to have. It's a good thing to
Yes.
have kinesthetic intelligence if you want to drive, if you want to swim, if
Uh huh.
whatever you're doing, moving furniture. If you're really, really bad at sports and you're like, I will never be good at sports, and that somehow translates to you saying, I'm never going to be good at picking up objects, and you're picking up expensive objects and then you drop them because you
Okay.
didn't want to play sport. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a
This
big
this this
map.
translate into your gross motor and to a lesser extent fine motor function, right? Hand, like
Hmm.
body, like eye coordination, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say that these things are valuable, and maybe sports is just the easiest way to kind of get kids on board because a lot of them are already sort of familiar with the concepts. So sure, but like I think I'm mostly speaking about like how, you know,
Culture and entertainment,
c-
sports, and all of that. And I
yeah,
agree. I
but
don't give a
also
shit about that.
also sort of like public funding too, how like
Uh,
a bunch of what Ben
With
you
scholarships for
Ben
colleges.
you reacted to that.
yeah, well, just like every fucking school on the planet, like colleges especially, like they put tens, if not millions, into like their athletics, and then
Hmm.
like, oh, our arts and fine arts, drama, music department, whatever. Just let it rot.
Yeah,
Cut it
and
entirely if you have to.
Matt, can you guess why that is?
Well,
What am I gonna say? That's why that is. What am I gonna say?
I think I have an idea as to what you're going to say, but I do want to interject this one point is that I think that theater education is also really, really important because that's a lot of
Absolutely.
acting. It's a lot of acting, presenting yourself to people. I think theater is one of the most important subjects in school.
Hmm.
That's my own. They say 4 years of English. I'm starting to wonder if people should have 4 years of acting. Seriously.
Yeah, I would say specifically improv can, and like, there's a lot of things that improv like can't do. Like it's not gonna necessarily make you a funnier person. It can for a lot of people, and it does for a lot of people. But I'm not talking purely just from like the value in acting. We're talking about sort of like value that extends beyond the actual act itself, right? Same thing with like kicking a soccer ball. It's not just learning how that muscle moves. It's like the whole idea of incorporating like kinesthetic awareness is that you use. That's a good way to phrase it.
I was saying kinesthetic intelligence.
Yeah, intelligence, awareness, yeah, same stuff. So if we apply that to stuff like improv, right? Like there are so many kids, like I know personally, and I wouldn't even have to give this as anecdotally, like you could probably see this, who just don't function well in a environment where they're limited to just waiting for their turn to talk or whatever. Like people in my family, like kids who exist in my family, like they're having a lot of issues, sitting still and like learning. But like if I feel like if what a lot of things that one of the things that improv teaches you, yeah, is how to listen, has how to be a good listener, right? And actually sort of like uh, use that ability to better communicate and sort of like understand each other in any environment, right? Because you have to build upon a shared reality, and that it requires a certain amount of giving someone the spotlight or the benefit of the doubt that they have something worth contributing. So
Sure.
I would say that that concept is very, very integral to people who have a hard time either with positions of authority or like what's known as like oppositional defiant disorder, ODD, right?
Ah,
It's similar to like ADD, but it just has to do more with like, again, I'm not a neurologist psychologist, but um, it has to do with like authority, I guess. And it's like these types of people will actively defy authority for the sake of defying authority. Like there's no underlying sort of like doesn't have to be an underlying relationship there. It just That's just the way that their brain is kind of structured or whatever, right?
You know what subject I've been wondering? I've been wondering what might be the one of the less important subjects to learn in school,
Ooh,
high school
well, that's
specific.
hard. Yeah.
And I'm actually wondering if it's actually science. Because
Well,
if you want to go into a scientific, because science is like a specific field, like a specific study
mhm.
that you would use if you want to go into a certain field, and you get a lot of science when you're before high school. You get it in middle school. In middle school, you get well, what I got a year of biology and 2 years of no, 1 year of environmental science, 1 year of biology, and then a year of what was it? Chemistry
Mhm.
and physics. Well, do people really need to know physics that much?
Uh,
Not really.
Not
You know,
necessarily, no. So I don't
I
know. I think teachers, Ben, I'll let you go in a second, but I think maybe some teachers or people who sort of study the function of education as a whole. I don't know what you would call these people, but um, like yeah, there's so much stuff from high school and for middle school it's like that, like I just don't remember or use it all. I'm not talking about stuff like algebra where it's like, okay, this is sort of like a mode of thinking that you have to comprehend in order to sort of like deal with more abstract sort of mathematical
hmm
problems or like situations, right? That can be like applied very it comes in. Algebra sort of like appears a lot. Algebraic thinking appears a lot in day-to-day life, but calculus seems like to be the cutoff where it's like you either learned about it or you didn't, and it's hard to pinpoint whether or not like learning calculus is more beneficial to like the average human. It's like it can be, but some of these things are like so circumstantial, right? So I think that
Right.
in a sense, the way that education is set up, it should be more. This requires more funding, of course, right? But I think this is ultimately a better way to think about it is to really look at the student, right? And have the capability to ascertain, and it wouldn't be like, oh, we're not going to teach you any math because we already decided that you're going to be like an artist or something like that. No, that's not what
Well,
I'm
that's what
saying.
they do in Germany.
Yeah,
No,
but
they
I,
do
I
that in
mean,
Germany.
maybe it works there, but I'm not even saying
No,
that. It's
I don't know. Let's see.
yeah,
Okay.
but my point being, and then Ben, I'll let you talk. So don't forget your thought.
No, in
That
Germany it sucks, but
yeah, but anyway,
that's what I've heard.
but I think there should be sort of like a check-in system, right? Because I think establishing a positive relationship with the act of learning itself, right? Where kids are actually excited to go to school and to actually learn about things that they're interested in, which you can learn about any subject. You can be any kind of person in the world, right? And as long as you have these baseline knowledge, like you do learn about algebra, and we sort of are a little bit more discriminatory with what we consider like you know um, necessary information for like functioning in a society, right? Because so many people argue that learning how taxes work, learning how voting works, like all these things that aren't taught to you in school really apply to the real world, and it's kind of a way of keeping people uh, subservient. you know, I don't know.
Well, maybe also
Sorry, I want to get
there's
Ben
a
in here. He's
reason.
been patient.
Yeah, so I would say like, oh, science being taught in school. Well, if the last few years have taught me anything, we need science now more than ever.
Oh
A
yeah,
lot of
buddy.
people not believing in science.
Hell yeah.
But I do like kind of concede your point where if you get into like super specific sciences, like not everyone needs to know chemistry, for example.
Oh yeah.
Most of the stuff that I learned in chemistry, I'm not gonna like use elsewhere. I mean, it's extent knowing like, okay, this molecule to create this, like, sure, I'm not calculating moles on a day-to-day basis,
Nah, yeah.
um, but
But
I think
oh,
all
sorry.
of
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think all of the like broad subjects, like art, music, science, history, that sort of thing, like are all important, but it's just the specifics of what we cover. And I do think there should be more life skills and maybe more emphasis put on. Do have like industrial tech and home ec and that sort of thing right now, but those are sort of electives. Whereas knowing how to make food, very important. But I had to
Well,
teach
home ec
that.
is part of the making food is part of the home ec thing, but it's
I
yeah.
I never took home ec. I never took anything close to a cooking class. So I mean,
See, I think of
maybe we would have like a cultural day or month or whatever where like one day we would come in and make like fucking wonton soup. Like that shit was cool. But in terms of like actually sustaining yourself as an adult human being, it's like yeah, I never got any of that shit.
Yeah. So I think more emphasis on those sort of things. Like for the really matter
do you
much,
think
but
maybe there's a reason why you're taught about how to sustain yourself in school, that maybe life is a competition, and if you taught people in school how to do that stuff, the competition bar would be raised so high, it would be hard for like the smartest among us to outsmart each other.
Wait, what?
uh,
What?
no.
It sounds like
I think
we're getting into like some social Darwinism type shit.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of social Darwinism that goes on in the world. That's the way that it works.
What? That's not the way that it should
It's
work, though.
Yeah, but it's how it does, and I mean, how can you get rid of that? I don't know if you really can. I mean,
Well,
maybe
in
you
what
can
respect are we talking
clone
about it?
people, maybe
I don't
like.
know how you can you just restate the point that you were making?
All right, so there's a job opening and 50 people apply. Well, that sucks for 49 of the people. Um,
Sure.
so you could say applying to jobs is a numbers game, but
Hmm.
let's say you do everything a little bit differently than everybody else who got brainwashed by school. Let's use these terminologies to
I
make it
don't
easy.
really like the term brainwashed. I think it's a
Yeah.
really no, but on any side, like whatever subject you're talking about, even if you're talking about actual brain, like the only time I think you should use the term brainwash is if you're like in some sort of like government facility and they're literally like feeding you lines and like using like brainwaves and some and shit like that to like you know what I mean? Like I think
Well, I'm
conditioned
just painting with a stroke, but
yeah, but it's too broad of a brush, dude. Like it's the wrong type of brush. Like I think conditioned is sort of because brainwashed has like this like pathos attached to it, right? Where it's like you imagine that these people have some sort of like underlying agenda that they're not being forthright about. So how about we use the word conditioned instead?
you don't like the pathos.
Not not in this instance, right? Because I think you're making a point that you don't intend to.
Well, okay, so let's say that the person is let's say that most people are conditioned a certain way, and
Hmm.
the key to being successful is to figure out how everybody is conditioned and do something different than that, and that's what will give you your value, and maybe that's the point. But it's like this weird unspoken rule in society that like, it's the great power, and you know, I don't know to what extent taking that power away from those who are able to discern, the non brainwashing is like if everybody had the same intelligence, if everybody had the same worldliness, the same everything, the competition would be ridiculous. It would be a
It-
complete numbers game. It would just be
I'm
you roll a die, and the people who don't get a six would just get shot.
Wait, I don't know what
I
you
mean,
mean.
completely
I'm
metaphorical, but
I,
I don't know what you mean really. Like yeah,
so
Ben.
I mean,
So no, sorry.
life is a game of outsmarting other
Let's
people,
let's
right?
let Ben chime in.
oh I think sort of what, if I understand correctly, like these skills, like knowing how to do your taxes and knowing how to cook, and for people that suburban environments, like knowing how to like check your engine and that sort of thing, like these are things that shouldn't be taught to us. Figuring them out on our own
Gives
is
us an edge.
just part of life or whatever. But people that can figure it out survive, and the people that don't, that knowledge is um, the thing is, whether or not this stuff is taught in school or not, like everyone has a level playing field in school, and in school they're withholding this like useful life information. If in school they taught all of these subjects and went in depth in all of them, then it would still be a level playing field. It's just everyone would just be more educated as a whole, and it's hard for me to see that as a bad thing in any way.
Yeah,
But see,
these systems would still be standardized, right? I do think there is a place for standardization in schools. I don't think every we need to treat every kid as like their own like little special snowflake or whatever. In some senses we do, but in other senses there are commonalities and again like standards that we do need to use to this is my understanding of it, but to like sort of test things, right? We need to be able to graph growth or what's it called you know someone's like we need to be able to track someone's progress in terms of learning a certain concept, right?
I'm just okay. So life is basically a game of outsmarting people.
Is it
It
though?
doesn't have
It,
to
yeah,
be.
I
it
think,
can be
but
whatever you
well,
want.
did I already say this though? 'Cause, I mean, that's my understanding. My concern is that if we educate more people on some of these, but if we create a school system where some of these basic things are remained incognizant to a lot of people, that gives power to those who easily figure it out, and then
Right?
that's, it's an edge to people, let's say people like us who know how to do these things,
Who?
and we have that
Wait,
edge
what?
over
What
these people who
edge?
might, the edge of being able to know how to cook or doing your taxes or whatever the fuck. I
So
mean,
you're
maybe there's more complicated things like, oh, maybe they should, they should include, they should give you charm classes in the school so you can charm people because that's
like Harry Potter,
That's
no,
like a
like
potions
social
class.
charm. No, like social charm, like put those types of
Well,
classes in.
yeah, to me that would go in line with like drama, right? Like yeah,
Well, not really,
a drama.
because
Well,
you
no,
can be.
it fosters like social interaction and like how to be able to again, like you said, like perform as a character or like perform like authority, perform like charisma, like any of these things. You have to be able to know what that looks like, and you have to be able to
Yeah.
replicate it, even if it's in an isolated like hypothetical environment, right? So
I
But
don't
I
I
know,
also said,
man.
well, sorry,
that
Ben, you wanted to say something?
I just, classes to teach you how to charm. That just makes me think of like skeevy pickup artists online.
Well, I think that's a uncharitable like view of it, but I'm trying to give it a more realistic spin where it's like it's social, like public speaking or just social interaction. It's like you could totally do a class about that. Totally. There's a speech class and stuff, right, for people who
Right,
struggle.
right.
I don't
That's
know.
probably the way you need to frame it, as opposed to saying like it's a class about learning how to charm people.
Yeah,
Look, man, I don't know. It's just the word that came to my mind.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of shamrocks and everything. Jeez.
If there was a class about Lucky Charms, I'd sign up for it. That'd be pretty.
I definitely would not take a class on fucking Lucky Charms.
See, that's
You
where
just
we agree.
I can't find my can opener. I have to be quiet. Oh,
and find your can opener.
Jesus Christ, Ben.
yeah, I have a New England accent.
Oh, I was just making a really dumb joke. That has
That's
nothing to do with your accent.
that's your clam
Oh,
opener.
I got it. The joke.
Okay. Alrighty then.
And oh my goodness gracious, what a joke!
I'm
It's a
glad
pretty
you
funny one,
appreciated it.
actually. Yeah, I did actually. I'm gonna put on the microwave and then waken my mother, who's going to go again.
She's
She gonna go?
She's gonna explode. What was that?
No, she's gonna go
Oh, okay.
again.
A hissy
Alright.
cat?
Yeah.
She's gonna do hissy noises.
Hey, Matt, your mom's a pussy. Sorry.
Probably.
I don't know. I was just making a cat joke. Anyway, all right. I think
Yeah.
this is around the time that my brain is turning to mush. So
I'm getting pretty hungry, honestly.
hungry.
Yeah, I'm heating up some peas right now myself.
I'm getting hungry, donkey.
Have some
I
ice
need
cream,
I
I
need
think.
to eat you for sustenance. Hey, Shrek, don't eat me. I'm making waffles. No, donkey. I got a hunger that only you could satisfy. Okay, Shrek. All right, so that was my ending. That was my
Okay.
That was my outro.
It was
So
excellent.
Yeah, quite a great way to end it.
you guys didn't like that?
On a top tier joke.
Shrek trying to eat his friend Donkey. You didn't like. You didn't like that?
It was so sad.
Well, honestly, in universe, like that would be an interesting term for the series. I want to see Dark Shrek.
Didn't he? I feel like that was a thing though. Didn't he? Didn't he threaten to, or he like threatens to eat like humans, I guess, right? But he never threatens to eat Donkey.
I don't think
No,
so.
dude, you know what's disappointing? So the company that made Jimmy Neutron, they were gonna continue the series and they're gonna make it pretty dark like Harry Potter did. That's what they
Okay.
wanted to do with Jimmy Neutron,
Well, some of those
but they
some
did.
I was just gonna say some of those
Yeah,
episodes got pretty dark. Like, do you remember the one where Sheen takes like
became intelligent.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like
like that was a pretty
hmm
fucking. I remember a lot of that episode, and I remember it being like kind of dark. Like he almost like kills Jimmy, and it's like kind of played for serious. I got to rewatch that
yeah.
episode. There are some pretty good ass episodes of Jimmy Neutron.
They wanted to start like turning the series into that type of stuff. Like it was a better type of turn. But what
Uh
happened
huh.
was is with the ant bully, they went bankrupt because they thought it was going to be a lot more lucrative than it actually
Oh, that's
was.
the
They
same
couldn't
studio.
afford. Yeah, they couldn't afford to continue Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, that
Huh.
sucks. But they were
It
able
really
to.
disappoints
They
me.
were able to continue Planet Sheen though. Like what the fuck?
I
That's a
am.
different company.
What really?
It was the
They
same
sold
writers and
they sold the
stuff,
rights.
but they sold the rights to whatever made
I
Planet
gotta
Sheen.
wait. Hold on, I have to look this up now. Sorry. So do you know the name of the studio that made Jimmy Neutron?
I don't know, but you can like find it with
W-
Wikipedia and like get into
wasn't it like DNA or something? Because they had the hi, I'm Paul.
that's like the DNA Productions wasn't giving the money. It was the other one that was doing the money. I don't remember. Viacom, I think. So,
Viacom's definitely still around.
no. I don't remember the names of the companies. Or
Oh.
it was O and O.
Oh, Oprah O.
Oh yeah. That I think they're separate.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I really want to know what Jimmy Neutron would be like. You know, the thing is,
You're cutting out, dude.
ended up working on the Borderlands video game. Jimmy Neutron. This is like Jimmy Neutron styles and shit in Borderlands that makes people think that it's a reference to Jimmy Neutron, like it takes place in the same universe. Because people who worked on Jimmy Neutron also worked on Borderlands. Yeah.
Sure.
Cut out the thing. Okay.